Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for another season of the URC, and this first match is an absolutely massive one. The Stormers taking on Leinster. Now, both sides don't have their international players, which brings a little bit more question into the depth of these two teams, but they have been close when they've played before. Feel like this game in Cape Town will be no different. Looking through at the Stormers starting lineup, it is Matongo in the front row alongside Andre Hugo Fenta as the 2, and Nedeling Fouchier, the veteran, slotting in as the number 3. Adre Smith alongside JD Schickerling in the locking duo with Paul de Villiers, Ben Jason Dixon, and Evan Ruiz slotting in at 8. That is a dangerous, physical, loose forward trio here for the Stormers, so they'll try and get that ball into their hands and see whether or not they can make some meters from the back of those rucks. Nkura alongside Yuri Matia as that 19 combination. Dan Duplessis alongside Ruan Nel in the midfield combo with Lelion Zas, Sebanello Sinatla, and then also Similani starting in as the 15. Like I said, missing the internationals, so no Damien Valimza, Sasha Feinberg, Ngume Zulumani, Libok, all those guys who are normally in the back line, nowhere to be seen for this contest. Looking through at this Leinster lineup. Now, it was kind of said that Leinster would come into this game as heavy favourites, which they actually are according to the betting odds, but they haven't got their usual international players for a certain extent either. You know, we don't see a Josh Van den Flair. There is no James Lowe. Those type of players are not playing in this contest. In the front row, Jack Boyle, Gus McCarthy, so no Dan Sheehan in the front row here for Leinster, and Slimani slotting in as that number 3. Mungan alongside Deeney as the locking duo with Ryan Beard, Scott Penny, and Colhane slotting in as the number 8. McGrath alongside Prendergast in that 19 combination. Frawley and Henshaw make up the midfield. That will be a dangerous one. Definitely up against Dan Duplessis and Ruan. Now, I do think the centres could be a very entertaining part of this matchup. Lama out on one wing, Tommy O'Brien out on the other, and then Jimmy O'Brien slots in as that number 15. Looking through at the way that the table sat last year, Leinster, they were top of the bunch, 76 points, and they went on to win their first ever URC title. From there, we've also seen the Stormers. They were in 5th in the overall standings, so early points can be absolutely crucial for these two sides. Someone like the Lions, for instance, Benetton and Cardiff, right on the verge of making it into that top 8. In the end, it was the Scarlets and Edinburgh who snuck by that line. So I feel every early point you can get, whether or not you are at home or away, well, home games you really want to confirm more than just the one, but if you can do that, put yourself in the right direction, then that is when it gets so dangerous, and that is when, you know, you can get yourself that top 8 spot, and that is all that matters at this stage of the competition. Looking through very quickly at what is the head-to-heads between these two sides. Now, the official record is 2-1-1. For these teams. Leinster have been able to beat the Stormers just the once. That was at home, but they have never won in South Africa up against the Stormers side. The first time that they tried, it was 20 points to 13. That was back in 2022, one of the first seasons of the URC, and then 42-12. That was the score on the 28th of April 2024, the last time that they were in South Africa, whereas anytime they are at home, they've had a draw and they've had a win. So it just shows that home field advantage in this rivalry has been quite a substantial factor in terms of who gets themselves the victory in the game. But looking through at the chat, we have got the URC season is here. Says William, let's go. And also evening all Stormers by 20. 20 is a bold call for the Stormers here. I know that they come in as underdogs for this matchup, but 20 would be massive for them. Definitely in front of the home crowd. I'm sure that the Cape Town locals would absolutely love that if that was the score for this matchup. We have got there, let's go. And also, hello Hamish, I like to hear, says Rhea. Yeah, has slowly started to grow back after the forfeit of South Africa beating New Zealand a little while ago. We have got there, come on Leinster. Says Jimbo, Dobson looks confident, says Briston. Well, that's the thing. He is missing certain players, but this is still a pretty solid side to put there out there on the field. And the good news is, with the exception of Lebok, Valimza, as well as Sasha Feinberg, Ngume Zulu. In fact, Lebok may not even be going to the Stormers this year, is he? Is he going overseas after? But yeah, I feel like there isn't a huge amount of impact on this team as a whole with the players that they are missing in terms of only a couple guys that then have to slot back in, but they are just showing At the moment, we are sitting about 10 minutes away from kickoff. I also will mention that this year, here in New Zealand, they are not showing it on free-to-air TV. I've had to get the URC TV match pass, the season pass, to be able to watch these games, but we will be covering them as normal on the channel. We have got there, good evening, morning, mate. Says, Blesham, welcome in. And we have got there, Japan, Labok. And also, I'm pretty sure Mani goes straight to Japan, says AJS. And also, how can the Stormers be favourites with 3 backline box out of the picture? Are we on Hopium? Says Norman, I think it comes down to the fact that this is a home game. And it's such a crucial advantage to have when you are at home in the URC. We've seen that time and time again throughout the earlier stages of the competition since it did start up. If you are at home, I think that normally increases your chance of winning by an extra about, I'd say, 25-30% just because you're at home. Reinhard, Sasha, Willemse will be a massive boost when they come back, absolutely. But there are still some pretty handy options. You know, Nkura has been in some good form. In the 10 jersey, Yuri Matia, he can be a little bit hit or miss, but up against Sam Prendergast, that's going to be a great challenge. See where he's at in terms of his level. And then also alongside that, the other player, Damien Willemse. He can slot into 12, he can slot into 10, he can slot into 15. He is definitely that versatile type of player that the Stormers love to have. And they'll be looking forward to having him back at some point in the future. Although, the thing is, November International, it's just around the corner too. So there are going to be some big gaps in terms of when we see certain players in and out. For the Stormers side, Similani is quite good. Same with Zas. Absolutely. Leon Zas has got pace for days out on that wing. He is marking head-to-head with Tommy O'Brien in this contest. But that one will be a very entertaining battle. And then, like you said, Similani, he started off more so in the midfield, didn't he, for the Stormers, and not really getting a huge amount of game time. Someone like a Waddock Hallant, you'd normally expect to see there, but I know it to be seen for this game. These are the benches, though. JJ Kutsia as that number 16, Reid and Porthien as that number 18, Ruben van Heeren alongside Ackerman with Tennyson as that number 21, so the 6-2 split for the Stormers in this contest. And then Swart there at 23, and Duvernyagier, whose name I cannot say too well, so hopefully he only gets like 2 minutes at the end of this contest. He will be slotting in as that number 22. For Leinster off the bench, they have got Harry Byrne, Cooney's there, Max Deegan as a great option later on in the game. McKee making his way off the bench, and perhaps that late rolling maul of Leinster could be a bit of a factor that we do see in the very near future. But some exciting games also for these two sides coming up just around the corner. For the Stormers next week, they will be taking on the Ospreys. That is another home game. And then 3 on the road in a row for the Stormers side. And it's just what happens with the URC. Unfortunately, sometimes you do get a nice home run. And then alongside that, you also have to hit the road multiple weeks in a row. I do think that out of those 3 away games, this one is definitely the one to keep an eye on. And also you could argue that Scarlets match, seeing as they had quite a good run in last year's URC. For Leinster, it does not get any easier because they get to have some fun up against the South African sides in the early rounds. They are going head-to-head with the Bulls next week. And then also alongside that, they have got the Sharks. But that one will be at home, 12th of October. And I also believe that all of their international players will be available for that match. So that is a big bonus for this Leinster team. They then take on Munster and then Zebre. It's that game in 29 days' time. But we are getting closer and closer to Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. So before we know it, the Champions Cup will also be back just around the corner. Don't know why there's no Hudson Berg, says AJS. Yes, I haven't heard anything about any sort of injury or anything like that, although it is a lot harder to find URC injury updates than it is for international. Of course, we've just seen the recent international update of Oxen Shea going to be out for that Springboks game. Maka van Staden moving to the bench and Boan Fenta in the starting lineup. We have their Bulls are winning next week against Leinster. All their injured Boks are returning, says AJS. And also we have got there, I met a Durban-born rugby fan yesterday. He's retired here in Ireland. He's married to Robbie Henshaw's aunt. Small world, says Jimbo. Well, there you go. Married to Robbie Henshaw's aunt. Of course, Henshaw getting the chance. And there we have got Shut Up About Christmas Amish Please. I can't believe we're in the 9th month. Like, it was only, I thought, 2 months ago that we went up and watched a game of Super Rugby, but it was actually closer to about maybe 5 or 6. It was when we ended up going to that Crusaders Highlanders game. Years going far too quickly. We have there. Good evening. How are you, Hamish? What games are you doing on Saturday and Sunday? So at this point in time, the ones that I've got slightly confirmed, of course subject to change, we've got this game, first of all. We've got the Sharks versus Glasgow just around the corner. Then from there, we're doing New Zealand versus Australia in the Rugby Championship. France versus New Zealand for the third place bronze final of the Women's World Cup. Alongside that, I've also got the Springboks versus Argentina, and then it will be Samoa versus Chile for their World Cup qualification match. So it does mean that we'll probably have to miss 2 games of the URC this week. But we're hoping to make up for that by covering them the weekend after. I don't see this going well for the Stormers, to be fair, says Dion. Yeah, see, that's the thing. They come in as underdogs, which I think is understandable, seeing as this is a match that up against a defending champs in Leinster who did all right on the road last year. You know, they will have to have their A game out there, the Stormers. But I think there's a quiet optimism about this side as well. We have their ridiculous clash just tomorrow. Yeah, it's so annoying because I think I would have covered every single game. Like, we would have done all the URC. I would have done the Women's World Cup final. Just had there been a little bit of thought about when games were taking place. But there wasn't. So it makes it very difficult. And I have messaged quite a few people trying to find replacements. No one wants to do it or no one's available. So, yeah, it's just me. Are you doing the women's final? I am not, because it overlaps with the Springboks versus Pumas. I don't know who did that schedule, but they did not do a good job. We don't have internationals in a few hours. Why is the URC back on? Or don't we have internationals in a few hours? That is true. Now, Leinster, I think out of any time to play the Stormers, they would love the fact that they're playing them in round 1 when they don't have the international players. But then saying that, Leinster also don't have them. What time is the women's final? It kicks off 10 minutes after South Africa versus Argentina does. And good evening from Cape Town, says Jeremy there. Welcome in. Hope you're doing extremely well. Sucks that the World Cup is on at the same time as the box. Would have been nice to see the final. Absolutely. And we've actually covered more games of that Women's World Cup final than I actually anticipated on the channel. I did decide that I wanted to do at least, the first initial goal was probably 4 or 5 games, but I think we ended up covering closer to 10, maybe even more of that one. This is crazy. They should have added the 7s just to spice it up even more, but currently 26 degrees Celsius in Cape Town. Humidity is 37%, and there's a little bit of wind, about 24 kilometres an hour. So I think that it won't affect too much, that little bit of wind, but the heat certainly will. I think we'll end up having a drinks break 20 minutes in. They're just showing all of the DHL cheerleaders back in the stands for this season. I see Piauri as the ref for New Zealand versus Australia tomorrow. Your take, says Yuri. Oh, I'm okay with it. Like, I've learned at this stage, like, the refs are only human. And, it is what it is. Piauri, the thing is, he has some interesting calls, but I also kind of like him. He just seems like he'd be a fun guy to talk to, if that makes sense. He just seems like he's all over the place in a good way. But nah, at the end of the day, they can't change who the ref is. So you just got to accept whoever it is and hope for the best. And also just play your rugby outside of it. We've seen sides complaining about referees when they drop the ball 15 times in a game. So if they can sort that out, maybe they'd have a better chance of winning contests. We have got there, good evening from Cape Town. The men in blue and white hoops are back. And we should mention the men with the new logo as well. I've still got the old one there. But the new logo, do we like it, do we not like it? I saw right at the start when they did announce it, there was quite a bit of backlash for the Stormers side. But over the last couple of months, has it grown on you? Or is it still the case of you prefer the classic option? And there we have got there. Hello, Hamish. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Says Sebastian, welcome in. Seb, hope you're doing well. We have got there. Hi, Hamish. Craig from St. Francis Bay. South Africa is back. Says Craig there. Sands and World Rugby don't talk. It'd be interesting if the Safa ladies got to the final. It would have been very interesting, yeah. But, yeah, I don't know why. Surely when you're doing a schedule, right, you look and you go, right, what else is on? And I don't know whether or not it was the World Cup final was announced first and the Rugby Championship just said, we don't care, we're going to do it anyway because people will watch us whether we're on at that time or not. But all it takes is a couple hours early or a couple hours later. And it's fine, but I guess it is the peak hour. So that is when they have to do it. To be fair, is unfair for Andre Pollard. Don't like what they did. He had to play. Says Mohadin, although I do think that Pollard will still get some minutes up against Argentina. Probably at Twickenham, to be fair. Would be the best time to use him. We have there, hey Sebastian, says Jimbo. We have got those cheerleaders do like white or brown bread. You'd have to ask them, dude. But I doubt they'd reply to you. We have got the hello Hamish, says Seb. And we have got there about the unfairity of Andre Pollard not playing, but the two sides making their way out of the tunnel. Leinster wearing the white kit with the gold round the waist and then the blue down the bottom. Now, the gold round the waist is a little bit substantial, as it is exactly what happened last year in the URC or earlier this season when Leinster won themselves their first URC title. But now, a big chance to be able to start their season right. What time is kickoff? It is pretty much in about 25 seconds or so, I would say. We are just seeing at the moment Ruan now. He will be making his way out onto the field, leading his side onto the park for this contest. Kneeling for Shea. I'm curious about this front row. See how they can go for the Stormers. And Pollard should fix his weakness on attack if he wants to play. Says Menelik. And we have got there also, hi Hamish and everyone. Hope all are well, says Lilia. Yeah, hopefully you are also excited for this game. I know that your Sharks are playing just around the corner up against the Glasgow Warriors. We'll be covering that one on the channel too. But plenty of URC coming up in the near future. And even the games that we aren't covering on the channel, we will still be giving updates throughout the matches as well. Just talking about that schedule. Ulster playing the Dragons. That even overlaps with Glasgow versus the Sharks. That is just around the corner. Marnie must kick right tomorrow. He made us lose last year, says Mohuddin. And Old Stormers logo as part of the ID. Changing it made no sense, says Brian. And we have got there as well. When did football jerseys start to have sponsors on them? And soccer doesn't do it, but we do. Why? I think it's just because they need a bit more money, to be honest. Like, normally the kits are pretty plain in terms of the football ones, but the rugby ones normally have at least 2 or 3, and it kind of comes back to the grassroots side of things. Normally you'd have like a brand on your back, you know, whether that's Resine or some random company in New Zealand. You know, you look at the South Canterbury boys, or you look at the Heartland teams here in New Zealand, and they all have sponsors, and each jersey's actually normally sponsored by a different side there too. We have there, hi Jimbo, says Lilia B. Ready to kick this one off for the URC season. It is going to be Yuri Matia to get us underway, and the URC has started up for 2025 and 26, and the Stormers have managed to retain the ball with Matongo, now kneeling for Shea, pick and go. And there as well, Stephen Nkura back across to the left-hand side, already in a good position on the field for Ruan now for his first carry. We have there, g'day chats. We received word that Grant Sports passed away earlier today. He was a big Stormers fan, so I figured this is an opportunity for all of us who knew him to be informed of the sad news. Says at the Big VH show. Yeah, it is very sad. I did hear it from Fleshen a little bit ago. Of course, a side that Grant was very fond of. He did say that it was my mum's favourite team multiple times too. But yeah, sad news for Grant and the family there. Already we've seen a knock-on from the Stormers side. I believe Rassi is leaving after the World Cup. Yeah, see, there's a bit of controversy going on at the moment, and I do think that, you know, it's all going to come down to whether or not South Africa are willing to still pay him what they pay him now. Because if they don't, someone will. I think. Does Arania even have internet? They have it for quite some time, V. But welcome in, Gerhard. Hope you are doing well. But aren't national teams supposed to be funded by governments? To a certain extent, but I mean, you even look at the Women's World Cup side that had to crowdfund their way to the World Cup final. Like, it is just a way, honestly, like, there isn't as much money in rugby as there is in football. So, it does make sense why they do need the sponsors. And honestly, the kits don't look that bad. I think they'd look a little bit plain without them, to be honest, without the sponsors on the jerseys. But you know, it's just to keep the game going. You need those sponsors. You need that money coming in. And sadly, in some cases, just revenue alone from advertising or from, you know, viewership doesn't do it for international rugby sides. Who's kicking the ball over the poles? I would say for this game, they'll have Yuri Matia. Oh, that's going to be the penalty going the way of Leinster for the first scrum of the contest. Just a little bit of an early push there from, I think that was Vernon Matongo. Has been picked up as the penalty recipient there, but Sam Prendergast now going to have the opportunity to kick this one towards the sideline. If Pollard don't play next week, I won't support the Springboks. says Mohadin. So if he comes off the bench, will you still slightly support them, or is it he has to be starting, or else you've given up on the team that have won 2 World Cups in a row? And highly likely that the Stormers are going to screw this one up as well, says Nico, and that is going to be, I thought, almost accidental offside against the Stormers, but it has been cleaned up. Lilian Zas lined up early, now backline trying to get it going. Similani, low tackle on him, bounce pass out to Sinetla. We'll kick it down the field, still staying in the field of play, nicely taken at the back by O'Brien. Now across Prendergast, looking for the 50-22 now, altitude to deal with. Letting that ball bounce, that's a risk from the Stormers, and that is quite poor. 2 men back covering that kick, and Prendergast still gets the 50-22 smack bang between them. But now, sitting 15 metres out from the line, Leinster in a good position on the park. They'll be looking to take this early home advantage out of the Stormers. Now ready to throw it in. Gus McCarthy going to the front. Little bit of a set play there for Leinster, but they get driven almost into touch. A big drive and tackle from the Stormers. Loose ball picked up by the Stormers. Now we will break the line. Little kicker behind Similani. In fact, this time it's going to be Sinetla trying to show off his pace. Bounce to the ball. Just knocking it on. And it is going to be now the scrum feed for Leinster here again. We have got there, I'm here, says one there. It's okay if he comes off the bench. If not playing, then we'll support the All Blacks, says Mohadin. That's a bold call. If they don't play Pollard up against the Pumas in the second, you're going to support a whole nother country. And how are you, says one. I am doing all right. Excited for this URC season. Different way of watching it for us here in New Zealand now. We are on URC TV to be able to watch these games, but it's unique. It's running smoothly so far, so hopefully that will be the case throughout the whole season. Morning, Hamish and everyone. Fun way to start the season. Yeah, massive matchup between these two sides, and there were concerned about the lack of internationals playing in this game, but the good news is both sides have got that same trouble, so it does even it out that little bit more. Perfect game to remember, Grant. Stormers versus Leinster. So yeah, his flesh in there. And many moons ago, Grant said his death wish was for his body preserved with, that's a big word, formaldehyde. Put in a glass case and posed on a sofa yelling at the TV with the Stormers game playing. Says the big V8 show. And what time New Zealand game tomorrow? They are going to be playing an early start for you guys in South Africa. I believe it is going to be a 7:05 a.m. kickoff. But a 5:05 p.m. kickoff for us here in New Zealand. We will be covering that game alongside many more throughout competition. Do go the Stormers, says Paul Oosterhuizen. And that's a big scrum push this time from the Stormers. They will win the penalty against the feed. So that is quite the statement after giving away the first penalty in the scrums for this match. Hope the Stormers win, says one. Well, they've got an easy 3-pointer here if they want it. I can't guarantee they do, though. They do. They have just called for the post. That'll be the smart move. Just slow this game down a little bit. Hi, folks. Go the Stormers. Says Neil in there too. Of course, it is greatly appreciated everyone being here. Plenty of URC still to come. South Africa playing late tomorrow? Not really. I think it's a 5 p.m. kickoff in South Africa. I believe that is when it is. We've actually got daylight saving here in New Zealand, so we are time traveling an hour forward before that match takes place. So it does mean that there's only about a 40-minute gap between the two streams that we are doing. We have got, there you go, the Stormers go. Says Gideon there. Yuri Matea lines up the shot and it goes over. So the first points of the URC 2025-26 season goes the way of the Stormers, and they lead 3-0 at home over the defending champs. And let's go, says V. I should mention this is actually a case where it is the oldest URC champions versus the newest URC champions. The Stormers having a great run in the first ever inaugural season. Are you going to do an hour build-up? I think so. I think it might be a slightly shorter one for New Zealand versus Australia, just because it is a slightly earlier kickoff. But I believe we will have the hour coming up for South Africa versus Argentina. A very nice kicker behind again from Prendergast. That time hasn't been a 50-22, but about 25 metres out from the line. The Stormers are going to have the line out, so he's just trying to make it awkward for them, forcing them back into their own half. Although last time that happened is actually where we saw the counter-attack from the Stormers side. So as long as they're defensively sound, they should have a pretty good shot being able to survive this. Let's go the Leinster kids. So here's Tucker there. And yeah, it's a big opportunity for these Leinster boys who have not won in South Africa before, to show what they can do. Of course, no Dan Sheehan, James Lowe, Gibson Park, those type of players. Big run forward from Evan Roos, sitting 22 metres out from the line at the moment. I am shy all says Wild Lobster, welcome in. Do you think Springboks will win tomorrow? They should, but there's no guarantees in this rugby championship. I think we've learnt that so far from watching all the sides get 2 wins, 2 losses. Backline here, little bit of a step coming from Yuri Matia, going now to Stephen Nkura. Kicking it high, waiting for this one to come down, nicely taken by O'Brien. Once again going back across field, little boot in behind from Leinster, who have played a strong kicking game so far throughout this matchup. Hello guys, long time no see. Says Yucko, welcome in, hope you're doing extremely well. Similani not doing so good after Frawley knocks him to the turf. Kneeling for sheer. Now a big tack on him by Slimani, who is slow falling down after him. Yuri Matia going for the kick in behind, and it will go into touch. I'm looking forward to an exciting rugby season with you, says Gideon there, and yeah, we're going to have plenty of it on the channel, whether that is the URC or whether that is going to be the internationals that are taking place in November. The Sevens is coming back soon. Super Rugby's just around the corner alongside the Six Nations. It's almost Christmas. Sorry for mentioning it again, but yeah, this year's gone very quickly. So far, big attack and run from Leinster, currently sitting around 43 metres out from their own line with the runner Colhane. What channel are you watching this live? So here in New Zealand, this season, we're actually watching it on URC TV. It is something that we didn't have last year, only for the games not involving South African sides, but it's no longer free to air here in New Zealand. So I think that will kill off a bit of the Kiwi market, but we're still going to be up at the random hours covering it as well. We have got there, hey man, what's your prediction for the Women's World Cup final? I will be completely honest with you. I haven't looked at the lineups. I haven't really put a huge amount of thought into it. It sounds awful, but the fact that we can't cover it on the channel, I think, has taken away a lot of the hype for me from that World Cup. The fact that I'll get spoilers for it throughout that rugby championship game as well. Like, I'll have to try and watch it on 2 different devices, I would say, just to try and keep up with it. But England are going to be hard to beat at Twickenham, definitely in front of 80,000. But Canada, they've probably, this is controversial, but I would say they've looked like the more complete team throughout the whole competition. I tried to watch it on URC TV. Well, it won't let me pay a subscription. Whereabouts are you from, Dean? Because I do know that there are, I believe, 3 locations that you can't buy URC TV. One of them is South Africa because of Super Sport. That is a penalty at Stormers scrum again. Now 42 metres out from their own line. They will be able to kick it towards the sideline. I'm subscribed to him. It says Yako, and it is greatly appreciated, of course. Everyone who has it, that subscribe button, as well as just everyone who's here in general. Got plenty more coming up throughout this weekend. Probably another about 14 hours you have to listen to me talk. So hopefully you don't get sick of me. We have got there from Ireland. I'm living in New Zealand, Christchurch. Okay, see, in New Zealand, URC TV should work, I believe. Have you paid for the match or like for the URC TV season pass? Because that is how I ended up doing it, and it seemed to work not too badly. You could cover the Women's Rugby World Cup. Can it sway me? Are you going to watch that live? Says Studs Race. Yeah, see, it's a tricky one because outside of it being overlapping with the Rugby Championship, which is a competition we've covered every year, and now that it's been known that the Rugby Championship might be dying because of all of the in-between seasons and years and tours that we're having, you know, it makes it a little bit more challenging to decide as well. But yeah, I think what's going to happen is I'll just have to do Rugby Championship while giving little updates about the Women's World Cup one. Commitment to the buzz cut. Kudos to you, sir. Says Scott David George. Yeah, the barber was very happy to see me back, seeing as I had only been in there about 4 days beforehand. And now the ball's going to be there. Leinster, McGrath, going back across to the left-hand side. Big chopping tackle from Evan Roos, and into the breakdown, winning the turnover there for JD Schickling. In fact, that time it was Audrey Smith does manage to win it. But at the moment in the breakdown, the Stormers just seem that little bit quicker, which is exactly what they will need up against this Leinster side. Love being able to push the pace, and this is a call and a half. I think they're going for the post here from inside of their own half. The Stormers, of course, no altitude to be able to assist with the distance, but still, you know, with where they are on the park, going to be a handy enough one there. What time is And your spot at the moment, it is 5:15 a.m. on a Saturday morning. So a bit of a brutal time. That Glasgow versus Sharks game is coming just around the corner. That is starting at 7 a.m. New Zealand time too. But yeah, we've got a bit of a half all-nighter before another all-nighter that has taken place tomorrow night due to all the rugby that has taken place. But Yuri Matea, a few deep breaths here. He is sitting 1 from 1 throughout this URC season. So whether or not you'd back him to kick it from inside of his own half is soon to be seen. He's keeping it low. And it just goes away to the right-hand side as well as being a little bit short for Yuri Matea. So perhaps just back in that distance a bit too much. Do you think Chile will win? I think that Chile being at home is certainly going to be a big boost for them. Nice run there from Evan Ruiz, getting back up to his feet and having another crack 45 metres out from the Leinster line. Well, low pass, finding Matongo's hands round his bootlaces. What's for breakfast? I haven't actually planned that far here. Probably a banana or something. So will be the go. But now that one's going to be knocked on by O'Brien, or at least it should be. The knock-on advantage in favour of the Stormers. And Kura, charge down kick for him. Now the Stormers flicking it out the back. It's a little bit scrappy when it gets a bit loose in the middle of the play. The Stormers have actually done pretty well to be able to regather that and create another bit of structure. Kneeling for Shea, sitting down McGrath and Kura. Back across now, Dan Duplessis. That looked close to forward from Yuri Matea out to Ben Jason Dixon cutting inwards. Wasn't held, so was able to go again. 40 metres out, and Kura. Back across now to Audrey Smith. Man who did start this whole play by getting that crucial turnover. Now out on the outside. Sanutla knocks it on by the looks of it, but I believe there is the advantage for offside anyway for for the Stormers here. So this one now, you're in a position, they could look at the corner in this scenario, and I don't think it would be a terrible option. But then they could also look for the 3 points. It depends on what the tactic is. But if you're up against that, they kick him for the post. I was about to say, if you're up against a Leinster side that you've now gone under a little bit of pressure, a couple penalties in a row against them, maybe that is when you start to get a little bit more aggressive. Over there, Covers has said a nice looking backdrop. Wish I was there. Yeah, it does look like I'll be honest, a slightly smaller crowd than I would have hoped for the opening contest of the URC. Like, don't get me wrong, I didn't think it would be a sellout, but they're probably got about maybe, I want to say 15% max of the stadium sold out for this contest. And great speed of play by the Stormers. Might sap them if they keep this up. Says Studs Rays, and what up, people? Says Xander there. This is a new Stormers logo, remind you of the Super Rugby one. A little bit. Matea's missed again, so that is now 1 from 3 off the kicking tee for Yuri Matea. We have there, money is bad, bro. I'm sorry, bro. Money is bad. Like, just in general, like money's not good, or money's not good for you, 420 Frosty. And cold and windy in Cape Town says, I lollipop. It looks like now 22 dropout here for Leinster. Sam Prendergast just sending that one as far downfield as he can. He's almost got it down to the 22 of the Stormers. That is a huge goal line dropout from him. Which would you like to see do better this new URC season? Which team? I actually want to see the Lions get top 8. They've had so many heartbreaks in the Currie Cup. Both games the last 2 years, they have actually made it to the final. They've managed to get in a position where, they should have won, and they've gone on to lose, but they've got a decent looking side for this Lions URC season. So, yeah, hopefully they'll do well. We have the inflation in South Africa is not funny, dude, and neither is how much tax we have. Says 420 Frosty. Yes, surely at some point, if it does affect the crowd numbers to this extent, they'll have to look at that and go, can we make it any cheaper? Is there a way of keeping, people in the stands? I remember first year of the URC, you'd look at a stadium and it would have 30 plus thousand. And this is the defending champions. Yes, they aren't the strongest lineup, but that almost would give you more incentive to go for the sake of seeing the Stormers potentially get a win up against top of the table. So South Africa needs to win both games against Argentina to win the championship. What does New Zealand and Australia need to do? Also win 2 in a row, pretty much, yeah. Whoever wins 2 games from here will more than likely win the Rugby Championship. And if 2 sides do, then it comes down to that differential and also those extra bonus points that we have seen. Backline here for Leinster around the halfway line. Bit of a fend from Jordan Lama as he's wrestled down by Nkura. There's a lot of Stormers playing in the Springboks, says Mohadin. They have got a couple. Damian Valimza getting to start at number 15 with Sasha Feinberg and Zulu starting as the 10. Knock on there from McGrath in the breakdown. Means that there will be another scrum this time in favour of the Stormers. How do you think that Stormers is going to do this season? I think they'll be top 8. You know, I would be pretty surprised if they did end up missing out on that chance. They're still a strong enough side. Irish like to brag about their fan following. Says V. And to be fair, there seems to be some decent-sized crowds when it comes to the URC when it is a home game. Seems lacking, says V. I assume you're talking about the amount of Leinster supporters in South Africa, but yeah, I do think that when we get to somewhere like the Aviva and Leinster are at home, that's normally when you see those big crowds coming in. But overall, sporting, league competitions just seem to be dropping in numbers of viewership, unfortunately, in terms of in the stadiums. But yeah, I don't know whether or not they'll try and find a way of fixing it or whether they'll slowly just let it keep on declining to the point where hardly anyone's going. Big scrum again from the Stormers. They've been told to use it this time. Evan Ruiz trying to break through, manages to get through 2 tackles. McGrath eventually taking him down. He's had to make some crucial tackles right next to the breakdown, Luke McGrath. Ankura back across, rush defence on Yuri Mateo, who passes it in behind Ruan now, who cleans it up, looking for the kick sideways. This one's going out on the full, and Leinster will have to line out round the halfway line. Super Rugby is always a must-watch. URC is the total, the opposite. Says Minecraft. In what way is it the opposite? Is it as in watching it on TV or watching it in the stadium? That you're saying. Oh, Leinster decided to take that one quickly. And the Stormers now inside of the in-goal area. Sanatla passes it across. He was about to force it down, which would have made it a 5-metre scrum. But Ruan now with a very good kick downfield this time, close to the sideline. And now sitting around the halfway line, it will be Jimmy O'Brien. But yeah, Leinster trying to take it quickly. Almost worked out for them. McGrath now with the little pop pass up into the hands of Ryan Beard. Another offload. Firing them behind. Sam Prendergast again looking for that 50-22. Sanatla has the handling error. It goes backwards. Matia kicking it down towards Leinster's 22. Now Prendergast going to send up the high boot once more. No one really chasing this one for Leinster. Maybe getting a little bit too much distance on it. Although an awkward bouncing ball for Sanatla to deal with. Now all the time in the world to kick this one into touch. And in the end, the territory battle does go the way of Leinster with the line out 35 metres out from the Stormers line. Well, I think New Zealand going to beat Aussies 2-0. Hopefully Argentina play without passion against us here, Xander. Is Club World Cup happening in 2029? I believe it is. I think that is the plan anyway. Saw that URC are implementing 20-minute red card. Thoughts? I think it depends on the card. There are still some people who firmly believe that a 20-minute red card shouldn't exist and a red card's a red. But then there are also some pretty soft red cards around. So those ones you don't mind only having that 20-minute break. But I think it does depend on the severity. That's a good shot on Ruan now. Now Zas trying to kick it in behind. Creating a bit of an angle there. Jimmy O'Brien. That one's going to be right in the touchline. Eventually does go out about 30 metres from the Stormers line. Quite a kicking-orientated battle at the moment taking place out there on the field. We have got the Leinster centres of fandom. Are our Richard suburbs. Ordinary fans are complaining about ticket prices this year, says Jimbo. And we have got there, who do you think will win the Rugby Championship, says Mohadin. Well, from the start I said South Africa. So that, I would say, is still a safe enough guess. Overall, you look very sad. You always say I look sad, Mohadin. Today I probably have decent reason. About 15 minutes before the live stream, found out that someone passed away, but I'm very excited for the URC. It's always the late night live streams you say I look sad though, so I think it's just the tiredness. That's probably more of the concern. We're now rolling this one back. Stephen Nkura, that's going to be the penalty going the way of the Stormers. The 19 minutes remaining is pretty close at the moment between these two teams. We haven't seen a single try, and we may not throughout the first half. Cheapest of €45, says Jimbo. So conversion-wise, that's probably I think is that 80 New Zealand dollars, somewhere around there. That's a great kick downfield from the Stormers, putting them in a very good position on the field. And that is going to be for foul play in the breakdown. I believe ended up, playing the 9 almost ended up with a roundhouse kick going the way. But now sitting 22 metres out from the line, Leinster currently have conceded the last 5 penalties in a row here. Andre Hugo-Finter ready to throw this ball in. It'll be nicely taken. What time is the half-time? Says Mahadin. Half-time will be taking place in 18 minutes or so's time. They're currently 22 minutes through in this one, and the rolling maul here for the Stormers. I'm being told to get out of it for Ryan Beard, and this might actually be really well set. Although, yep, there's the penalty advantage for the Stormers. Ball has popped out on their side. Stephen Nkura looping around. Chance here. Similani looking to fire it wide. Gets it low into the hands of Sanutla, who does try and almost pierce through the two Leinster defenders. Similani driven backwards and a good tackle by O'Brien. And 45 euros equals 913 South African Rand. That's steep for club games. Okay, so that will be around 90 New Zealand dollars then, as I think it's about 10 Rand to the dollar here. Now Nkura back across. Oh, drop kick for Yuri Matea. Has he? No, he's missed it. So they will go back for the penalty. Yuri Matea at the moment has had a bit of a rough time after getting that first kick over. 45 euros is crazy for a ticket. Only paid like 20 bucks for a Crusaders game. Says Dion. Yeah, see, when we went to watch the Crusaders versus the Highlanders, it would have cost us the equivalent of 35 euro when we went last year. So it's a bit more expensive, bit pricey, but it's not massively more than what you get charged in New Zealand, depending on the game that you go to. That one was Crusaders versus Highlanders. Let's have a core of 10k fans who fly anywhere and pay whatever. So the rest of us just go to 3 or 4 home games a season, says Jimbo. And penalties and bad discipline going to cost us the game, says Anthony. Yeah, at the moment it is adding up. But Yuri Matea, he has now missed a potential 9 points throughout this game. This one should be a nice, easy one, straight out in front. What's the bet next, or what's the next bet? Boxman tomorrow, no bets whatsoever. They are favourites heading into that contest. That was close to getting kicked dead from the Stormers. It's almost your birthday, Hamish. It is getting closer, only a few months away. Okay, Andre Hugo-Finter is not happy with the gap there. So this was a change in tactics. It's interesting that they decided to go for a drop kick, but now they are deciding to go for the corner here, the Stormers. So maybe a little bit of indecisiveness about what the plan is and the tactics. But this is a big rolling maul. He's going to crawl towards the try line. They have said not held. So it will be the try for Paul de Villiers, but they may just check this after he broke away from the rolling maul. But if it is a try, it will be the first of the season, and it goes the way of the Stormers team. Paul de Villiers getting on the board for the first time of this season. So the question is, will more people go if ticket prices drops, or will people still not go because it's more comfortable at home? Hence prices stay as high as possible. Right, the time is off here. They are just going to check whether or not there was crawling beforehand. So they're going to get in Crusaders season pass, 560, 70 per game. But they are decent seats, says Studs Race. Right, so this one, the first TMO involved of the season, and it is for the very first try that we have seen scored. This seems like it might be more of the same like last year. Okay, they're saying there it could be for double banking. So they break away initially. So he's allowed one movement though for de Villiers. So he's pretty low to the ground, and he is down short initially, but you're allowed that one outstretched movement, and you would argue that he had that. So it's just whether or not this maul was legal. We have seen the mauls actually talked about quite a bit in recent times. There was that one in the Women's World Cup that looked pretty good, but then it was ruled back. Okay, they've said he's clearly made a step, but I don't know whether or not that's good or bad. It's no try for the Stormers. There's an obstruction, and that is going to be no try. Penalty goes the way of Leinster. A 4 in front of them all, so that is JD Schickling who has been penalised for that one. Timo still checking for infringements between the Lions and the Griquas in the final. We get a lot of URC games free on TV because Connacht has its Irish language TV and Ulster has UK TV. And also we have got their matches being played in Cape Town, says Gideon. It certainly is. Cape Town Stadium for this contest, and that did not make the home crowd very happy, but the score will still remain 3 points to 0. We still wait for the first try of this URC season. We were so close, almost had it. And South Africa, says Gideon, cheapest tickets tonight were 85 Rand, most expensive 385. There are 130 Rand. Not that expensive, says iLollipop. In there as well. Now that one's going to be thrown in, nicely taken by McGrath. Attack and run forward from James Colehane. Now just talking about the Man of the Match award. So far throughout this early stages of the contest, you'd have to say it's probably Sam Prendergast with the way he's been able to control that game from the 10 role, but also some very handy Stormers out there on the field. Someone like it, JD Schickerling, up until that penalty. Yuri Matia now kicking it in behind, looking for the 50-22, and it bounces into touch. Very nice kick. And that is now a 50-22 for both of these sides in the earlier stages of the match. Okay, it was touched anyway, I think, said the referee. So it is going to be a 50-22 anyway here. And Stormers will have themselves another attacking line out. Good position to be on the field. Holly Davison, the best referee in the world, and she is going to be refereeing the World Cup final between Canada and England for the Women's World Cup. So yeah, it should be an exciting contest. Ouch, only 3 points after 30 minutes. To be fair though, if the Stormers had got all of their kicks and drop kicks over, they would have 12. So, you know, they would have been ticking over a little bit, but currently sitting 1 from 4 in the kicking department has certainly not helped. Now it's the Nutler, the step there. They had a disallowed try as well just moments ago, but they are looking to get themselves another, this time with Paul de Villiers. Oh, knock on from Nkura, nicely done by Leinster in the breakdown to cause a bit of disruption. And Evan Roos dragging down his opposite number. And back across, Frawley rushed defence on him by Ruan, now trying to turn it into a rolling maul. Now the knees were down, so they will have to release him. You're all looking forward to the World Cup and Rugby World Championship tomorrow, says Big Rig. It's going to be a big day. You know, there's also that qualification for Samoa up against Chile for the Rugby World Cup. That is a game that I'm thoroughly looking forward to and seeing whether or not there is some sort of chance there for the Samoans. But then Chile also, after how they played in that first game, you'd have to argue deserve to go through as well. So it's a tricky one. There's going to be a non-Abbey side. That is a forward pass from Sam Prendergast. I have no idea how that can be called as flat when it went about 2 metres in the opposite direction. Now McGrath back across to the left-hand side. Now shifted it on. Prendergast again. It's affordable if everyone pays their own way. But these 7 to 15-year-old freeloaders, they can go into a game as a family. A challenge, says Studs raised. That one's going to go into touch. And that is going to now be a Stormers line out. 28 minutes through, 3-0. Still the score between these two teams. I'm not sure if you know. But the BBC in the UK has lost the rights to the URC game. So as it stands in the UK, S4C is the only free channel to watch the URC, says Richard. Maybe Chile deserve it. Do you really want a Rugby World Cup without Samoa? No. No, I feel like Samoa, in terms of the big name value for the World Cup, they will certainly pack a bit of a punch in Australia. But at the same time, like, the repechage is still around the corner, so I do actually hope whoever loses the game later on actually will still qualify through the repechage. Because Chile just seem like a side with a bit of passion, and they're going in the right direction. They're actually playing some very solid rugby, beating Romania, Seb, about 40 points to 12. Now Ngura kicking it downfield, nicely taken on the halfway line. Lama, though, popping the offload up from his back. Prendergast again, looking for the 50-22, and it's kicked out on the full this time. So probably the first kicking error we've seen from Prendergast in this contest. It's come at a poor time. And them around the halfway line, and a good attacking opportunity again for the Stormers, who have looked, I would argue, the more dangerous throughout the early stages of this match on attack. And do they not? I swear I've watched some, but I'm obviously mixed up. Didn't know that, Richard. I love watching Ulster. I live in Ulster. I've watched lots of S4C, but Alba don't broadcast here. Now the Stormers, they have got themselves their line out now, and that is a good kick in behind. An awkward bouncing one too. It's a very awkward one for McGrath, who was tackled on the ground by Evan Ruis. Probably lucky to end up getting away with that one. And only 5 metres out from the line now. Leinster having to try and create an angle to be able to get a kick away, hand straight down. And the breakdown for the Stormers, giving away the penalty there. Bad play from Andre Hugo Fenta. Crowd are not happy about it, but sadly did just place both hands on the turf before deciding to go for that steal. And yeah, we have got Stormzy here said hello. Welcome in. Hope you are doing very well. They have to play Namibia, Paraguay, and Belgium in the tournament. Yeah, see, out of those sides, I would have to say I'd like to see Chile or Namibia, just because Namibia normally add that little bit of extra something. In terms of, like, I enjoyed watching them throughout that last World Cup, and they are normally a bit of a staple in a World Cup too. But yeah, Zimbabwe certainly are the talk of the town when it comes to the African side who have qualified. Yeah, Evan Ruiz probably could have been penalised there for playing the man on the ground. Commentators have just said it was borderline as well, but loose ball. JD Schickerling not able to quite take that one cleanly. This time over the ball for Andre Hugo Fenta, so he wins the penalty. Legitimate that time, and that is a bold call too. The fact that he had just given away a penalty to try it again as Romania in the World Cup, says Mohadin. I think so. I'm not actually too sure though. To be honest, they've called for the shot at the post again here, the Stormers. Would you rather go see New Zealand versus South Africa live in South Africa or in New Zealand? Which stadium? See, I'd like to go watch it at Hagley Oval just because it's only a few hours up the road. And I'm tempted to go watch one of the T20s up against the English as it is happening just around the corner. Maybe even that test match up against the West Indies. And yes, Romania have qualified. So here's Big Rig. That'll be good news for the Romanians. Yuri Matia. Can he have some good news off the kicking tee? Currently the man is sitting 1 from 3. And that time he gets it over. The Stormers now leading 6-0 over Leinster. In this contest, they are currently still considered slight underdogs at $2.10. The line is very even with 1.5. So I have Portugal, Spain and Georgia. Says Big Rick. There's no championship next year. Yeah, instead it is going to be a tour. I'm not sure what's happening with Australia and Argentina as of yet, but I'd like to think that something would be organised for them, whether or not it is a tour of their own. But yeah, the individual tours are splitting a little bit of the opinion about the Rugby Championship at the moment. How, you know, the competition's been on a bit of a winning formula lately, and now it's all changing. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes. It will either hurt the competition badly or it might help it grow. But at the moment, it seems like it could be the first one. We have there. I would like to see South Africa versus New Zealand at Loftus, but only if I get my ticket to the main suite. Says Xander, nicely taken there. Little king behind, attempted by O'Brien. That one curling towards the touchline. It's in the in-goal area. They cannot leave that, so Yuri Matia has to force it dead. It's going to be now the goal line dropout. 7 minutes remaining in this first half and a 6-point lead. And just talking about Mani Libok, not going to be playing for the Stormers throughout this season. He is heading to Japan. Australia a little busy with the fires. Says Big Rig. As in like the fires that they're planning on having next year. So they won't be able to take part in the Rugby Championship. Now Yuri Matia kicking this one downfield, down towards the halfway line, and a little bit of miscommunication there for all he thought it was his. Oh my goodness, that's the biggest hit we're going to see for this round of the URC. Crunching tackle made by Leinster. Oh, now loose ball. It was the tackle on Leinster, I should say. Lelion Zas managing to get the steal. Leinster looking for the breakdown turnover. But the Stormers round the halfway line. Yuri Matia puts it across to Sanatla. Normally his pace on the outside. He's going to win the foot race. Ball on the inside to Ruan now. Dragged down 15 metres out from the line. And if Leinster let's find some oomph. We're looking lackluster here. It just seems like they aren't quite winning that physical battle. Backline here. Chance for the Stormers down the wing. They're going back for what's that? They're going back for a forward pass. We've seen 3 today and none of them have been called. Similani celebrating, and now he's found out that it's a forward pass. So that is now a bit of a disappointment for the Stormers on attack. Blackburn says the male Springboks wearing blindfold. Who wins? Says Big Rig. I'm not even going to answer that. What we have got there, have you ever been to Cape Town? Cape Town is lekker, but I don't take advantage of it though. Says Stormzy. I have not been to Cape Town. I haven't actually been to South Africa either, but it is on the bucket list. Right. Okay, Ruan now has just been giving a stern warning from the referee. Referee said if you talk like that again to me, you're going to be off the field. So obviously some words were not mixed by Ruan now. I went to bed. I went to work. I did not know this game was on today, says Robert. And there is another one just around the corner. It is going to be the Sharks in their match when they go head-to-head. They're saying forward out the hands. That was not the biggest forward pass we have seen throughout this game by far. You know, there have been much worse that have not been called. And how many points does the Box need to retain the Championship Cup? They'll definitely need the 2 wins, but it all happens, you know, depending on what happens between New Zealand and Australia. But after New Zealand and Australia play, I'll let you know exactly what they will need roughly. But at the moment, it looks like 2 bonus point wins might almost get them there, depending on what happens. Because if Australia somehow beat New Zealand twice, then Australia pretty hard to beat with those extra bonus points they got from their last game. But Leinster win themselves the scrum penalty now. A little bit of angle there in the front row from Matongo. Go to Cape Town. Other stuff ever goes bad, says V. You know, in November's games, we are certainly going to be covering as many matches in November as physically possible. Cricket season will start back up, but that doesn't affect too many internationals, seeing as they're happening up north. Box have 34 points on the All Blacks. Says Jimbo, that is true. But Australia have got 2 bonus points from that last game that put them into first place in the overall standings. And good, don't talk bad to the refs. Wayne Barnes once sent Dylan Hartley off the field in a premiership final for calling him a cheat. Says Big Rig. Right, going back, another little bit of a mistake there. Stephen Nkura now going to have themselves the scrum, but a little bit of controversy already throughout this first URC game. There always was going to be 2 competitive sides going head-to-head. It's going to be a scrum around the halfway line. Dylan's defence was, I wasn't saying it to the referee, I was saying it to a player on the ground. The ref was just between them, which isn't a great defence. Says Big Rig. And then your notification is on. Says Robert in there too. So yeah, it is happening just around the corner. The Glasgow Warriors, they are heavy favourites playing at home. Although they are also missing a few Scottish internationals for that match. A Box win 2 5-point victories and take the Rugby Championship. So you're giving Argentina no chance in either game, is what you're saying there. Because the trickiest part is the 3 or more tries than your opposition, isn't it? I feel like scoring 4 tries, we've seen a lot of sides do that already throughout the year, but it's the 3 extra on top of them that does make it more difficult. Now going off to the right-hand side, trying to get the steal. Now Yuri Matia, that is nicely done. Similani puts it on the outside to Sanatla. Nice step on the inside, goes to Similani again. They are sitting 10 metres out from the try line, hands down in the breakdown. That could have been a penalty and maybe something more against Leinster. They're going back for a knock-on from the Stormers. 2 Stormers tries denied. Ref doing his destructive work well. Hates our American teams. Says Victor. There were so many Americans coming to Cape Town with 4 flights a week from New York and 3 flights a week from Washington, D.C. All direct flights, says Gideon. And there was a grassroots team here in the UK that got marched back. Total of 80 metres. Jeez. 80? But surely by then, like, you got to send someone off, don't you? Yeah, 1-1 Australia ABs will be a loud message, says Jimbo. Well, it would be. And I do think Australia, you know, I looked through at the stats and I think it's at the moment New Zealand have won the last about 30 on New Zealand's soil. And they haven't lost since 2001 in New Zealand, but then New Zealand have lost in Australia a little bit more recently. Okay, both teams now getting a bit of a warning at scrum time. We're already 38 minutes through this contest, and it is 6-0 at the moment, the way that it sits. And TG4 has a second channel now. I'm not sure you know this or not, but it's only on TG4 website, so a heads up, says Richard. They're just showing those next games coming up around the corner. Leinster have 2 more South African sides that they will be going head-to-head with. One up against the Bulls next week at Loftus, and then the game after that is actually going to be at home, up against the Sharks. The Sharks have a pretty tough road at the start of this URC season, but they can only go up from the early stages of the competition. Now 40 seconds remaining here and only about 20 metres out from their own line now for Leinster. Back in the dark ages, we didn't talk to refs at all. Just in case he penalised us, those were the days. Yeah, and I do feel like if they went back to those days of any sort of backjack to a referee from any player other than the captain was a penalty, I think it was sorted out pretty quickly. Oh, it's going to be a poor pass now. Robbie Henshaw, he's going to be running this one towards the sideline. There is the siren. McGrath goes back into the pocket. Prendergast kicks it at a touch, and at halftime, in this URC opener. It is 6-0. Not a single try. Well, not a single try that has been awarded anyway. I only watch online, Richard. Don't have TV. Says Jimbo isn't being loaded playing for Gloucester Rugby. Yeah, I think he's gone back to England, hasn't he? Ben Loader. But he'll be a bit of a hit for the Stormers. He is a dangerous player, and some maybe didn't rate him as highly as they should have. He's an absolute tank of an individual, true. But at a short time back in the days, anything short of stomping on the other team's face was legal. Says Big Rig. Yeah, halftime in this contest, 6-0 in favour of the Stormers. So a good start to the contest. That is exactly what they would have liked, although maybe a few extra points have been left out there at the moment for both of these teams. But that does not mean there can still be improvement. A bit further on, some of the English-Scotland games from the 60s, 70s in the mud are 2 sets away from just being legalised brawls. So here's Big Rig, at least 20 points that the Stormers left out there. Yeah, they've certainly had a few chances that have gone begging throughout that first half. And, you know, they will be disappointed that they weren't able to get a couple more of those kicks over. And also the fact that they had 2 chances to score that were both taken away. They just have to be that little bit more clinical. In the second half, rightio, lads and ladies, local semi-final replay beckons. Our boys team enjoy the game, says Jimbo, so we will see you later on. I'm sure we will see you pop in at some stage throughout the weekend, going with the reserves bench in this game. The Stormers are yet to make any changes, same with Leinster. So fresh for the second 40. And I think that the timing of these subs will be crucial in this game because it has been played at a high tempo. Even with the kicking battle, there's been a lot of running around on the field going on for both of these sides. So, you know, if they don't get it right, just wonder whether or not there will be a little bit too much fatigue starting to set in. Perhaps that last kind of 20 minutes is when this game fully does start to open up. Some decent options for both of the teams. Marcel Tennyson and that 6-2 split of the Stormers I think will be extremely handy. Definitely with Ruben van Heeren thrown into the mix too. Yeah, second half just around the corner from taking place. It's intriguing. Lower scoring than I think anyone was predicting between these two sides. These are the last results of the teams playing. So the lowest points that we have seen in a contest between these two sides is actually 33. So we need a high-scoring second half if we want to get anywhere near that total. That was back in 2022 that match did take place. In the upcoming games, the Stormers, they have got themselves the Ospreys next week. Then from there, they've got the Scarlets, Zebre, and Benetton all away from home for the Stormers. So a bit of a road trip coming up for this DHL Stormers side. For the Leinster team, that's the wrong one. For the Leinster team, we'll try that again. They have got the Bulls in next week's game. That is going to be at Loftus, and that is actually straight away following the match taking place between South Africa and Argentina. Leinster versus the Sharks. That is going to be an intriguing one. That is being played in Ireland, and then they've got the Irish Derby. I hope that doesn't overlap with anything. I'm just going to have a quick look now. 19th of October sounds like it wouldn't be too bad. In fact, okay, Zebre versus the Stormers is later. Is there any game that overlaps? Surely you don't have a game overlapping with an Irish derby between Munster and Leinster, right? It's just no way. Or at least that's what I'm hoping. 19th. There is no overlap. We are good, ladies and gents. So, yeah, hopefully we'll be able to cover that one on the channel. Sharks versus Ulster happening beforehand. Lions versus Scarlets a little bit prior. And then Zebre versus Stormers happening afterwards. So it would actually be 4 live streams in a row if we ended up doing that one. I can't think of any other comps that would be taking place 19th of October. Maybe the NPC might be coming to a close. Potentially. Yeah, okay. The semi-finals of the NPC will be on, I believe, Friday and Saturday, maybe. But that should be fine. No worries whatsoever. Score on this one, 6-0. At the moment, the way that it is sitting, we have got there, strange to Timo only gets the Stormers mistake. No, leads the forward pass, that says John. Well, I mentioned about it. That forward pass that they called was not anywhere near the biggest forward pass we have seen of the day. In fact, I've probably counted about 3 or 4 that haven't been called throughout the contest already. I just got a Stormers advert now on my phone. And also Stormers are throwing tries away. And the box playing in Durban makes me nervous, says Justin there. And Evan Roos, always on the fringe of infringing. Yeah, there was that one where he did tackle the Irish 9 McGrath on the ground. That he didn't end up getting penalised for it. And instead, Andre Hugo Fente hands straight down on the ground to give away a pretty obvious penalty. All Leinster need is one converted try and they're winning, says Big Rig. And that frustrates the Stormers, I'm sure. The fact that they've had so many opportunities, but from the chances that they've had, they have only got the 6 points on the board. Excited to see what Johan Ackerman does with the Bulls this season and can beat the All Blacks tomorrow at Eden Park for the Wallabies. I think that they're in with a good shot. Like, I looked through at this Wallabies side and I think, yep, they've got something about them. Booked on my sofa for back-to-back rugby tomorrow, so yeah, at 6 a.m. Says Jimbo. And also we have got there, this performance is because the Springboks have our key players. Says Briston. It could be. But at the same time, I think that Ireland missing their keys have also kind of evened the contest out a little bit. I was a bit surprised at how much of an underdog the Stormers came in for this game. I would have called it more 50-50, to be honest, just because of the players missing for both teams. Box need bonus points from both games, says Hazel. They made the Rugby Championship and the World Cup final overlap. Silly Billies. Yeah, I think it's really dumb. Like, whoever did the schedule surely could have looked, but I have a feeling it might have been that the Women's World Cup was locked in and then the Rugby Championship announced their draw. So it may have been the case of, like, the Women's World Cup, you could argue, if they announced it first, they've done nothing wrong. And it's just the sad reality of the way that it's worked out. I really like the Stormers jerseys. And, you know, Ruan Ackerman is the son of Vodacom Bulls coach Johan Ackerman. I didn't know that. Who else is there? There's another Ackerman as well, isn't there? Who's the other Ackerman? Or maybe I'm thinking of Aka van der Merwe, maybe. That might be the confusion there. They just allowed 4-pass try. Similani looked flatter than the Australian try by Dongunu. Yeah, they got the try. Too many inconsistencies by the refs. Says AJS. Yeah, sadly, it's different game to game at the moment. So you never know what you're going to get when you are playing. Speaking of never knowing what you're going to get, there are a bunch of dinosaurs running around a course at the moment. They are in inflatable T-Rex costumes. One of them's bloody quick. Sign him up for the wing, because he is winning by miles, and he's doing it in a big inflatable suit. Oh, he's just been grabbed. But I think legally, like, they must be allowed to do that. Maybe. They're running straight sideways at the moment. I don't know whether they won that race. We have got there, could be the last time we see two of the Welsh regions this season. Says Fleshin. And shout out to my older sister, Lisa, at the stadium. I love you, old sis. Says Gerhard there. Well, the guy who organised it is sexist and expects no one to watch the woman. Says Anthony. I think that the Women's World Cup has been much more of a success than a lot of people wanted to give it credit for. I think it's been incredible so far. And yeah, it's just a shame that it overlaps. Like, we're going to be able to cover the third place playoff game between New Zealand and France because it doesn't overlap. And that game's going to be happening at 11:30, which it does overlap with Bulls versus Ospreys, but I do think that game could be one-sided. So what we're going to do is a bit similar to last week, how we'll give a bit of a update on what is happening between the Bulls and Ospreys while also commentating that women's game. A throwback to when Aka punched Skulk Brits. Why is the score so low? Raining? It is not raining. It's just, I would say the disallowed tries as well as the missed opportunities at the post from the Stormers have certainly hurt them. They're currently sitting 2 from 5 off the kicking tee and also did miss a drop kick. Aka and Duan van der Merwe are brothers, says Timothy. Yeah, they are. They look completely different, but no, they are the bros. We have got there, great to see Jan back in South Africa, says Justin. In the box of the Pumas, I knew their women weren't going to be in the finals, so they wanted to spike everyone else, says Big Rig. Yeah. Surely someone could have just gone early, right? But I guess maybe the URC draw was already determined, so it's, yeah. So Angus Gardner has not refereed a bot game, has withdrawn a few times. What's your thinking? Says Anthony, as in, like, the reason why he's withdrawn, or, like, what's the question there? Braxton Sorensen McGee is the future of women's rugby, says AJS. Hello, Hamish. Hope everything's well. I think Leinster will get the job done, and then I want to know what's your score, Glasgow versus the Sharks. See, Glasgow come in as heavy favourites for that game. And I'm just going to have a quick look at what they are anticipating. The line is 20 in terms of the fact that they think Glasgow are going to win by 20. I don't know whether it will be as high as that. I'd like to think there'd be a little bit of fight from the Sharks, even though they are missing some of their key players. I'll go Glasgow by 10, but I would like to see it closer. And hopefully that will be the case. You know, we want to see a close game that goes down to the wire rather than just a one-sided affair that, you know, is going to be just a one-horse race. I love your commentary here in South Africa since we can't see any rugby on TV except soccer unless you pay channel, says Hazel. And then, yeah, we are going to be here for a lot of the URC throughout the season. Alongside that, any games that we aren't covering on the channel because of overlaps, we will still be giving updates about the URC and what is happening, who is scoring the tries, everything along those lines. Everyone knows Springboks play 5-10 at home, not the champions' fault. It overlapped. I would argue it's the World Cup's fault, says AJS. And we're there. Speaking of Angus, they just announced that WWE Drew McIntyre has been cast as Angus MacLeod in the Highlanders reboot. He hasn't even seen the original, so he can't watch back, or he can watch them back to back. Where can you watch the URC in New Zealand? It used to be on TV NZ Plus, but sadly they did lose the rights, so now it's on URC TV. There is a season pass available. It is, I believe, about 80 New Zealand dollars, which may sound expensive off the get-go, but you get every game of every round of the URC live and on demand. This sounds like I'm getting sponsored by them. I am not, sadly, but it works out to be maybe like $1 a game by the end of the season. So if you are a big fan of the URC and you enjoy watching the games live or the action replays, it's probably not a bad option. But it's just unfortunate that Sky don't have it because, of course, you're already probably paying a Sky subscription too. It's been hectic and windy and everything went pear-shaped. And we have got their Freaky Friday here in Cape Town because of the wind. Says Ruth. It's always good to support rugby. Buy your team's t-shirt. Says Big Rig. Which is why I don't have a huge amount of t-shirts because I still struggle to decide who my team actually is. The second half just about to take place between these two sides. 6-0 at the moment, the halftime score. So a low-scoring close game in Cape Town at the moment. The Stormers were all but able to break through multiple times throughout the first half, but it's whether or not Leinster start to find their rhythm. Is it 6 a.m. in New Zealand? It is, yep. So a nice early morning start. We've also got Sharks versus Glasgow just around the corner that I am going to be covering on the channel as well. Leinster should make a huge push. Second half, says Ruth. You just wear a generic shirt with a rugby ball on it, says Big Rig. Well, there you go. I don't think this one's got a rugby ball on it. The one that I got underneath this, but I got those Rugby League World Cup jumpers, so they could kind of count, couldn't they? Excited for me to hear the big game tomorrow. Storiani, that's an interesting way of wording it, but yes, very excited. Hopefully it's going to be a fantastic game. In fact, hopefully all the games throughout this weekend are. It's going to be a hectic about 10 hours worth of commentary tomorrow. So, yeah, hopefully it all goes smoothly. Getting ready to kick this one off, Sam Prendergast. The good news is we don't have any heavy wind warning for this weekend, unlike last week, although it didn't blow last week, so it probably will blow this weekend. Instead, Ruan now, that one not going the 10 metres for Leinster. I actually think the weaker internationals have missed a trick by not making it possible to buy their shirts. Says Big Rig. Oh, that's going to be knocked back by Jimmy O'Brien, or perhaps even knocked on, depending on how they look at it. Nice and hot in Orania. And summer come early. Hamish problems with my Vodacom. Hopefully sorting out my subscription. TMO, yikes. It'll be interesting to see the viewing figures for the two games. The women's final will get a huge audience here, as it's free to air, and it's being pushed big time, says Flesh. And yeah, it might actually end up being that South Africa versus Argentina outside of those two countries. And also, perhaps New Zealand and Australia may not get its normal international viewership for some people. Some might be looking at their World Cup final and catching the replay on the Rugby Championship instead. But Nkura, now getting across to Andre Hugo Fenta, currently 35 metres out from the line. Evan Ruiz ends up knocking it backwards, does it again, and they'll go back for the penalty. Try buying a Brazilian or Germany or Colombian rugby kit. You can't. Says Big Rick. It's going to be the penalty going against Jack Boyle, and Yuri Matia again will call for the sticks. Now, this is interesting because this will give them a 9-point lead, more than the 7 points up. If it does go over, love that grey hoodie, and their haircut matches my sweatshirt tonight, also grey, says Ruth. And there as well. Now getting ready to line up this one, Yuri Matia. Sitting currently 2 from 5 for this URC season. Or sorry, 2 from 4. I keep on counting that drop kick as a miss as well, which is a bit harsh. It's currently 50% accuracy for that man. And Matia hooks it, and it goes over. So that is going to make the score now 42 minutes into the game, sitting 9-0. How about Griquas in this championship, says Hazel. I know that there have been talks about adding another side into this URC, and perhaps with the Welsh teams, a couple of them going absent next season, it could open up the door for another side to make their way in. Got a feeling the Stormers may decide they can win this game, says Ruth. And I don't see a lot of drop goals in modern rugby, says Big Rig. Not outside of that last kind of maybe 5 minutes or so, or when the penalty advantage is in, but every once in a while you see one, and they're almost like the forbidden fruit of some sort, you know. You don't see them in general play it. Normally when they happen, if you miss, you get booed, so it's a bit of a harsh one. German kit are a thing of beauty as well. You do find one available. It's bloody expensive. Says Fleshin. Now Andre Hugo Fenter. You need to throw this ball in for the Stormers. And Griquas are fabulous. I feel so sad for the Lions, too. They came so close. Griquas deserved it. Yeah, see, that's twice now that the Lions have butchered it in the final moments from just making one bad decision. And, you know, that's got to start weighing on your mind a bit. And that is why I also want to see them do well in this URC, because they kind of need it for their confidence. That one's going to be kicked a bit too far and nicely taken by Tommy O'Brien. Puts the pass on the outside. That's going to be a kick downfield from Ryan Beard, looking for the 50-22. The big blindside flanker, Yuri Matia. Kicking it downfield again. Nicely taken this time by Jimmy O'Brien. Round the halfway line. Saludos desde Argentina. Says Nahul. It's not guaranteed. We lose 2 teams. Says Bleshin there. Now cross kick. Oh, partially charged down. Beautifully done by Ruan now, which has turned it into an attacking chance for Sinatla. Offload between the sticks. Surely has to be the try. He is on the line. That is surely the try for the Stormers. Oh, a little bit of push and shove there too. Of course, one of the players right in the middle of it is Evan Ruz. There is absolutely no surprise there. He would be after a little bit of push and shove in this scenario. They are just saying it should be on the line, I believe. It looked like he just slid over. Lions butchered at Hamish. Griquas made mincemeat of them Lion steaks. Right, TMO's coming in now. Right, referee did not see the grounding there as the call. They are going to be checking it now on standby. See whether or not there is the big clear grounding for Stephen Nkura. He slid very close. And for a start, Leinster couldn't decide whether or not they wanted to hold him up. Where is that ball? Where is it ended? Oh, that's close to the line. In fact, that may be just short from that angle, which might end up hurting them just a little bit. But it does look pretty good. A few hands coming in later on after Leinster to try and hold it up. Have they done enough here? It's close. I think this one's honestly 50-50. I don't want to say it is clear, but I also don't want to say it's not clear, because we've seen some tricky ones already. There's rumours that the 2 rejected teams might play for the Prem, or even the 2 retained teams might try that route. Says Fleshin. Yeah, it's been talked about a little while, hasn't it, in terms of the chance of a URC Premiership combination. We have there, how do you feel about the URC adding a B League, says Ian. Who would be in it out of curiosity? I mean, I'm all for like the promotion and relegation side of things. I do think it adds a little bit more intenseness to the competition. They're checking that one. I think they like it. The ball has made the line and has been grounded. Try number 1 of the URC now has been awarded. And it's for Stephen Nkura as they sit now 14-0 with a kick straight out in front of the post. This is a very strong start. And, you know, at this point, it's going to be hard for Leinster to even get close to coming back unless they can put something together. And I all says Kevin. And Bruin says V. And also just thought Bok. We have to be on their guard. Puma's on the hunt for Bok flesh. Says Ruth there, but Sanutla just showing off his pace. 2-score lead. As ball game, in my opinion, says Big Rig. I would say it's still slightly early enough. Still got 35 minutes remaining. But yeah, it certainly puts them in a good position. And if Leinster can't find something soon, they will get blown away in this game. First try, though. I think it is 4. We have this commentator is great, but he looks completely different to Hamish. says Kevin. Does he? I feel like it's just the fact that I've got short hair. But I'm still supposed to be the same person. Or else, if I wasn't, I'd be getting some good sleep about now. Before the big day, we have their Stormers. Storm forward, well done, says Gideon. We have their Requas keep their nerve and their belief, says Ruth there. Now rolling this one back. Oh, Stephen Nkura getting a hand on it. Well, you're also not wearing a suit. That is true. I'm in my day clothes or my casual clothing. That's a knock-on. 2 knock-ons, in fact. One from Leinster, one from the Stormers. So I think this will be Leinster scrum feed. Oh, sorry, Stormers scrum feed, I should say. We have got their Greekwas keep their nerve and their belief. And you're looking refreshed and ready for action again. And your Rocky Balboa workout clothes, says Big Rig. Yeah, just knocked on by Ryan Beard initially. You'd be disappointed that I haven't watched Rocky. My dad's watched it many times, but I haven't. I'll have to add it to my list of movies that I haven't seen, which is at the moment a mile long. Do Leinster have a strong bench, says Freuden. It's not bad overall. Like they've got Deegan off the bench, which I think could change things a little bit. And also Gus McCarthy hasn't quite been as impactful throughout this game as I did expect initially. So having McKee off the bench could be quite handy. Burns there, Cooney. I just don't know whether or not they're quite on the same page yet for this season, which I think will hurt them a bit when it comes to making those changes. Stormers going off short side to a Hartzenberg, or sorry, not Hartzenberg, it was a Lelion Zas out on that wing. Evan Russ now playing halfback. And what a crooked comp this is, says Bean. In what regard? Like, as in for the disallowed try, I assume, is the one you're talking about, Bean? The only thing I will say is I don't assume it's a boxing movie. There's boxing in the opening and last scene. The other 100 minutes, it's just drama, says Big Rick. And you see the box beating the Pumas in Durban. They've got a pretty good record in Durban. They have won 4 of their last 5. The only loss recently was up against Ireland there. So I'd give them a pretty good shot of being able to get that win. But currently Leinster have got themselves the possession about 40 metres out from the line. Ryan Beard, big collision there. And the penalty goes the way of Leinster. Tackle was good, but not rolling away. And I saw this coming, says Hensel. You see, Leinster were favourites heading into this contest. And they haven't won on South African soil up against the Stormers. It was probably the other factor that could have made it a bit more even than the odds suggested. We're going to see it there. Just Andre Hugo Fenta making that tackle and then Paul de Villiers getting on it. But Hugo Fenta affected that clean out. And Rose's ladies my pick, says Gerhard. A line out throw here for Leinster. This is their best attacking chance of pretty much the whole game. And they've blown it as the ball goes into the hands of the Stormers. If the Box win by more than 20 tomorrow, then Amish to shave his eyebrows live on stream. No, we're all right. We'll keep the eyebrows for now. I feel like we need to stop the trend of me having to do a live stream, or sorry, a forfeit every time South Africa win, because they probably will win again about 6 more times throughout this year. So, yeah, it's just a little bit of a fun thing to do, but it's not going to be an every week occurrence. Ali Kildun can protect the homestead, says Big Rig. Now sitting 15 metres out from their own line here, the Stormers. They have once again got themselves that scrum feed. Leinster's handling has been far from perfect. If the Pumas win by 20, then Hamish gets to wear an afro wig, says Big Rig. My cats are so fed up with this wind howling 2 days in a row, says Ruth. Now Nkura to feed this ball in. We've got to remember the Stormers also do have a 6-2 split off of their bench. So they will have that physicality later on in the game too. Leinster, I thought, would win this easy, says Hensel. You see, I didn't think it would be easy for either side, but I didn't see it being this one-sided. So whether or not we see a late Leinster comeback to make it a bit closer, a bit late to the game, but so glad you're covering this, Hamish, and glad my team's winning, says McNulty there, and it is greatly appreciated you being here. And yeah, we've got plenty more URC around the corner. It will be the Glasgow Warriors going head-to-head with the Sharks. And go up on the eyebrows, says Robert. And Bald Head of South Africa win the World Cup, says V. We've got a different thing planned for the World Cup, but I won't mention it as of yet, just in case things change. But it is something more substantial, I would say, in that regard. Well, it depends on how substantial you consider being bald as. I mean, I'm pretty much there with the haircut we've got now, so it's not that much worse going all the way. But, oh, it's going to be dropped. And now another penalty goes the way of the Stormers. Leinster must be close to getting themselves a penalty. Yeah, you end up chopping fingers off. Says Fleshin. Yeah, and then people would still go, how about the hand next? Or how about you dislocate your arm for fun? It's like, no, we're all right. And we have got Meg Jones, another brilliant player. She's been impressive throughout this World Cup. I feel like, don't get me wrong, Kildun does the flashy stuff, but she even said it herself that there were players out there on the field doing more than her, but she just got the glory. The Pumas could smack the block. Wouldn't surprise me if Pumas win by 5. So here's Ruth. Yeah, the big scrum going sideways there. Leinster are struggling without those Irish internationals in the front row of Porter, Sheehan, as well as Furlong. And Brock Harris, he liked that one, of course, the scrum man for the Stormers. And the commentator, always appreciate you. How did you think of the second half of the All Blacks against the Springboks? They certainly didn't do too well in that game, the All Blacks, but I mentioned about it that it was the best half of South African rugby in terms of their attacking that I think we've seen. Some have even said ever as well. And it was just so impressive the way that no matter what happened, they just gelled. And with the fact that they had injuries throughout that first half as well, Marnie Libok, I was so happy to see him have a great game. Even still, people are still trying to say that maybe he shouldn't be there, but I think that game silenced a lot of the critics. So yeah, Aldcroft is probably the most consistent Red Rose for 80 minutes. And for Shear's having a massive game, yeah, those scrums have been very strong from the Stormers, giving them a lot of much-needed possession. Currently 51.5 minutes through. Ball is still on the hands of the Stormers. They're sitting around that halfway mark. Now back across. Chance here. Oh, big bump off from Sinatla, but unfortunately in the process of pushing the man away, did end up knocking on that ball. So it is now going to be the scrum feed for Leinster. Got to went with my gut and bet Stormers to win. Says Bo Kang there. And Leinster Cook, says Jamie Knox. Although we've got to remember they are missing a lot of players. So are the Stormers though. So, once these two sides get back to full strength, I think it will be very intriguing to see how they go. Perhaps they will meet later on in the competition. Couple changes being made. Paul de Villiers, he is making his way off alongside, I believe that is going to be Andre Smith, in fact. Now we see McCarthy on, so they are starting to make the changes in the front row here for Leinster. Stormers pack is quite good. Hard to believe that Brock Harris wasn't on the field, or was on the field less than 12 months ago. It seems like he's been in the box for a while, says Just Me. Do you think Leinster can score 13 points? I think they'll struggle. Why are the Stormers doing well? The thing is, I would say it's because of their scrum. But outside of the scrums, you'd also have to argue that maybe they aren't doing as well as they'd like to be. That is the slightly weird part of it. But, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Like I said, it's just very intriguing to see whether or not, once those little errors get out of their game, whether or not they will be, once again, title contenders for this season. The Stormers, Leinster are always going to be right up there. Whether they have a loss early on, we've got to remember they had a brilliant winning streak in last year's URC. Leinster, when are you getting on the board? Geez Louise, says Ruth. Well, they have got themselves a scrum round the halfway line. So I would say that should help a little bit in terms of their venture towards finally scoring. And now the scrum is set. Oh, and it's a pre-engage coming from the Stormers, so Leinster do get themselves the free kick here. And big collision again. Ben Jason Dixon, he's put in some huge hits for the Stormers throughout this matchup. And I don't think it will change throughout the rest of the game unless they take him off. Frawley, he's playing number 12. Right, this is probably a good point. Leinster have Frawley in the 12 jersey. We've seen him about twice. Now, Prendergast has been doing a lot of kicking, and don't get me wrong, the kicking game has worked to a certain extent in terms of winning that territory battle, but then from there, they haven't been able to get the position back. Is it full team or is it a half team? It is the Leinster developmental side. They are missing all their Irish internationals, but so are the Stormers. Not the Irish internationals, of course, but Stormers missing Sasha as well as Damien Valimza. Those are their two main hits, as well as Reinach for this season, although he was not there for last year. Now O'Brien goes across to Prendergast. This time it looks like Leinster are going to try and run it with Max Deegan. He can be a bit of a game changer, but Evan Russ tries to drive him towards the sideline. I've got a Brazilian coffee instant and a jar full body roast. So there's Roof there now, back across, big collision there again from Ben Jason Dixon, who is just, he's hitting these Leinster players like they owe him money. The way that he is putting in the hits. Now Lama with a short pop pass up to O'Brien. He breaks through. Should have the pace to go all the way with a bit of a rough pass though. And it's a knock on from Leinster. And that was their big attacking moment that they have not had. And now they've blown it. And the Stormers will get themselves a scrum. And that is where Robbie Henshaw, we haven't seen him. He's playing 13 for this game. I think I've said that man's name once. And the time before that, it was when someone was saying that Robbie Henshaw's auntie dates someone that they know or something. And come on, unlucky Leinster, at least I had a fight Sears Big Rig, and lucky for me, there is no Southeaster. Last week, when I went up Table Mountain, the aroma of hot coffee, Kevin like Amish's aftershave. Sears Roof there too. Like they said, finally breaking the line there for Leinster. But again, it hasn't led to those points. It'll be frustrating in that coaching box for Leo Cullen. His coaching team, they will have to go back to the drawing board for the game next week, because they are taking on the Bulls. We're looking like a real URC contender as well here. 25 minutes remaining. The referee just doing his hair at the moment, making sure he looks all pretty for the cameras. Before the scrum takes place, Stephen Nkura had a solid game from that number 9 jersey. Did score himself the first try and the only try of the URC so far. And get going, otherwise it's over, baby. And should Leo Cullen have been replaced after last season, says James? So you're asking, should the coach have been replaced after Leinster won their URC title? You'd have to say no. Oh, a little bit of wrestling there and a hand in the face of Nettling Fouchier. That is frustration at scrum time from Leinster. And it looks like it's the number 17. A bit more wrestling. It's got him in a side mount at the moment. It's all kicking off here. This is out of pure frustration for Leinster. They're annoyed that they can do no talking on the field at the moment from this, what would be regarded as abysmal performance. But Paddy McCarthy, the one who was trying to start a fight with Nettling Fouchier. So I don't know whether or not something was said, but the referee's going to try and get control of it now. Right. Okay, referee's just saying there, go back to your teams and stop messing around. Robbie Henshaw deep down someone's auntie? No, Robbie Henshaw's auntie was dating some bloke that someone knew. And who is winning this match for you? Well, I think from here, 16-0 up. I just don't see a way that the Stormers can throw this game away unless their discipline throws it away, which could be a factor here throughout the last 20 minutes. They have to keep that composure. We have there, this one expert on the pyramids has never seen the actual pyramids. You don't have to come down for a big South Africa tour next year. No pressure, Seaskill's story. We're going to see the replay now. It's just from in the breakdown. Oh, yeah, that's just a bit of afters from Paddy McCarthy. Decided that he wanted to try and scrummage with Nettling Fouchier after the scrum had finished. Oh, 17's getting called over here. Is he going to get a yellow card? He might do. I know, they're both getting called over. Now, I actually think that Nettling Fouchier didn't do a lot wrong here. Okay. So pretty much there, Paddy McCarthy has been told by the referee, as well as Nettling Fouchier, if you both overreact again, you're going to get taken from the field. Like I said, I think Nettling Fouchier just pretty much finished the scrum. And then he had the youngster, Paddy McCarthy, who was obviously fired up, who decided to try and drive him backwards after the scrum rather than during. Then when you visit, or when you're going to visit South Africa, believe me, we as South Africans will spoil you. Says Hazel, I would like to think within the next 3 years. Because the thing is, I want to go over for long enough to make it like a decent length trip. I'd have to also work out if I was going to still be doing streaming while I'm over there, how I'm going to get that set up. Just a Friday night in the park for the boys. They should shake it off, says just me. And what if for share, dude? Not a lot. But he's been pretty much warned for Paddy McCarthy that if Paddy McCarthy fires up again, both will go to the bin. There's going to be too much juice on that kick from the Stormers. Now they will go back to where it was kicked from. Hamish won't want to leave if he comes there, says Ruth. Hamish will have to go sit with Vic and Vern. Vic and Vern are actually in Switzerland, so I'd have to head up north if I was to go visit them. But JJ Kurtzia now making his way onto the field alongside Ruben van Heeren. Not exactly bad options to make their way off the bench. We have got from James. Or more so the fails in the Europe. Some Irish media coverage thought he should be moved on because they have failed a few times in Europe. Leo Cullen, that is. A few fans thought that also, says James. And I guess when you are a side with a lot of potential and a lot of money, all the players in the world, you do want to be winning every season. I guess that's because of the Champions Cup, isn't it? The fact that they didn't win that as well. But I think if you ask this group, as well as the supporters, would they have rather had one trophy or none? I think that they'd be happy enough with just the URC for now. Who's on attack now? It is going to be a scrum feed for Leinster around the halfway line due to a dead ball kick from the Stormers. I would love to go to see how we're ever going to watch the ABs versus Box. It's my dream for me. So yeah, Johnny there, RTS sponsored Leinster, is also sponsored by Bank of Ireland, and overcharged the supporters like Bank of Ireland sponsored Munster. They all give away free tickets to greedy politicians and bankers. Says David, and double blow of the whistle here from the referee. Time is off. Front rows are getting another warning here. I don't think it's too far away from someone going to the bin if these continue the way that they are. Okay, referee there just saying that the behaviour has to be different from the front rows if they don't want to get themselves sent off the field. And Leinster get a 1 point, please. Says Ruth, yeah, it would be quite the statement if Leinster were to end this game with 0. In fact, I'm trying to think through their last year's games. Did they have any game that they finished with 0 points on the board? I don't think they did. In fact, they hardly had a game that they lost throughout last year. I think they only lost 2 in total. Or something around there. Lots of Box supporters in Switzerland. Says Hensel there. Now another scrum. Leinster still do have themselves the feed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly check that and see whether or not I am correct. URC. Leinster last year. What do they have? Any nils. They scored 13 against Glasgow, and that is the penalty to the Stormers at scrum time. So that will be a frustrating one for this Leinster side again. They scored 10 points up against the Sharks, but still won in South Africa. That's looking like their lowest at the moment, unless I can find one from earlier on. So their lowest points all of last season was 10 points. Every game from now on will be the Razor's Edge for Razor. Hey, Hamish. Or will be on the Razor's Edge for Razor. Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one for him. I do think that people like to sack coaches as quickly as they can, but then they normally can't find a replacement that does any better. So, until New Zealand have a clear-cut guy that they would actually want to replace him, I don't think they need to go sacking anyone. Plus, they just don't have the money to be able to sack coaches. They offer them long-term deals and then hope that they will pull out of them. This is going to be a kick for the post to add the additional 3 points for Yuri Matias, sitting 3 from 5 today. That one may not have the distance or just below the post. That is going to be another unsuccessful one for Yuri Matias, still sitting at 50% for his accuracy. The Box performed a Scott Hall Razor's Edge on Razor a few weeks ago. Says Big Rig. And white flag time for Leinster. They need to throw the ball around Fiji style. Says Studs Rays. Yeah, you wonder whether or not there'll be an element of, I guess, hesitancy to go too crazy just because, the points differential is not ideal. 16 down at the moment. But if they go too experimental, they might end up in a position that was a knock-on from, I believe it was Ruan Ackerman, but it is going to be play on for now. Stormers round the halfway line. JJ Kutsia dragged down. Leinster just haven't been able to find any sort of rhythm throughout this whole matchup. Now knocked back by Leon Zas. Leinster, they've got, see, that's not a knock-on. If that's a knock-on, then Ruan Ackerman should have been called. But it is going to be the scrum feed now for the Stormers again. And Razor sharpening his blades tonight, says Ruth. Yeah, it's going to be a big game up against the Wallabies. I know that there's a bit of bad blood at the moment between Scott Robertson and Joe Schmidt. So, you know, a bit of back and forth between them has been thoroughly entertaining to watch. We're going to see it now. Does he knock it on? Maybe if it was Paddy McCarthy who did touch that one, it would be considered as that knock on. 20 minutes remaining in this contest. Currently 16-0. Leinster, they will be at least just looking to get a bonus point from this game for being within 7. But even that's looking a little bit unlikely. How will they get within a score? 4 pence? Says Eric. Well, yeah, at the moment it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to get themselves a try with the amount of handling errors. But I would say a try and maybe 3 at the end or 2 tries, quick fire. Like Leinster could score more tries than the Stormers in this game but still lose because of those extra points that we've seen taken. But another penalty going the way of the Stormers. It looks like Yuri Matea, he is this time going to be kicking for the touchline. I think there was a bit of hesitancy to hand him the kicking tee after only getting 50% today. I love how the French women's coach said how their plan is to win through experimental open play and not set pieces. Then literally every single try they scored against the Red Roses was a set piece. So here's Big Rig. So maybe a little bit of a double bluff there. Trying to make England think they were going to do one thing and then change it. Right, they've got the nominations for player of the match at the moment. So Nutless had the ball a little bit. Evan Rus was another one, and Matongo. They are the 3 Stormers players who are up there. This is a big rolling maul here. And Andre Hugo Fenta, that one's going to be dragged down. Leinster trying to tie it up. But still available here for the Stormers yet again. Now going off to the right-hand side, chopping tackle. That'll be an advantage. I think that was for no arms in the tackle there. The Stormers 5 metres out from the line off the mistake of Will Connors. And Kura digging around for the ball again, asking for the penalty, told to get out of it. No love for the props. Player of the match options. Although, to be fair, Matongo was there, who is the loose prop for the Stormers. There is a yellow card coming now, by the looks of it, for Leinster. Yeah, referee reach into the pocket, and it's actually Max Deegan who makes his way from the field here. That'll be one that they are not too happy about. French ladies got a big lesson from the Roses blown away. Chez Malheurs, Les Bleus. And also they have a chance to bring back some French pride tomorrow against the Ferns. I was too sorry. Take it back, was watching for Fouché. I think the Ferns have it though, says Big Rig. Yeah, that'll be an intriguing game. We are going to be covering it on the channel. It does overlap with Bulls versus Osprey, so what we will be doing is a little bit of that co-commentary on that stream. JJ Kutsia ready to throw it in again. Rolling ball here for the Stormers as it starts to move towards the try line again. Evan Russ is over and he will score the try for the Stormers. A little bit slow getting up there, Evan Russ. Hopefully has not picked up an injury, but they now lead 21-0 over Leinster here. When it rains, a pause, says Lisa. Eliza, sorry. We have got there Big Rig Joe. And we have got there, and cool story, bro, O'Kitty Pure Meow, Cape Town. Still got a claim. It's not a ball game, says a Big Rig. I mean, there is a big difference. You will be able to admit it as well. Scoring and getting 21 points ahead with 15 minutes remaining compared to being 16 points up with a total of 35 minutes remaining. Liza in there as well. Now, we need to line up this kick. Yuri Matea is sitting 4 from 7. Jake White as an All Blacks coach will be the weirdest thing I've ever heard in rugby. And Matea does get that one over. So to be fair, he has converted the tries. He just hasn't converted the penalties too often throughout this game. But 23-0 now the score in this contest. And Evan Russ spinning out there. Normally Andre Hugo Fenta would want to be in that position, or at least a replacement. JJ Kutsia. And well on the Stormers, go, says getting nicely taken by the Stormers again. And Leinster still playing with a one-man disadvantage for the next 8.5 minutes. This is where you start trying to build yourself towards a bonus point, because Bonus points up against Leinster later on in the season will not happen often. So if you can really hurt them here with a bad points differential and a bonus point for yourself, boosting yourself up majorly, could put the Stormers in a perfect position. That's a hard landing on the head for Jimmy O'Brien, smacking the back of his head on the ground, but the penalty goes the way of the Stormers again. Swart is on the field. That is for Dan Duplessis. Bit of an injury here for Lelion Zas too, by the looks of it. The Zimbabwean Matongo in the front row having a brilliant day at the office. Is this a Leinster B team? See, I don't like using the terminology of B team, but it is definitely not their best at the moment. But this is not the Stormers' best team as well, is the counter argument. They have got players missing, such as a Damien Valimza, Kobus Reinach, Sasha Feinberg, Ngume Zulu, although the Leinster team, you could probably argue, have about 7, 8, or 9 players somewhere around there missing. What's the penalty count? All Stormers now, great to see. See, it starts race here. The penalty count has to be double figures up against Leinster. A bit of a loose throw there from JJ Coetzee. And our Leinster managing to steal that ball. McCarthy looking for the offload. Another knock on coming from Leinster. It is going to be the scrum feed now for the Stormers. I mean, B is in the best. Says Gold Story, and good morning from Sydney. Says, Boy, welcome in. Hope you're doing extremely well. What time do you start and stop Hamish 4 games back to back, or do you get a sleep in between? No sleep in between. So pretty much the first game, New Zealand versus Australia, will be starting at 4:45 New Zealand time. And then alongside that, next game after that will be starting at probably around 11:20. That will be New Zealand versus France in the Women's World Cup. Then there's about a 40-minute gap up until South Africa play. Didn't expect this. I was actually thinking the Stormers were going to lose, says Lizar. And also, I feel like B teams don't really exist in modern rugby, at least how it used to. Entire squads need to be strong, says Big Rig. Now another scrum feed here for the Stormers. Ball's going to be fed in by, I believe it is actually Davanahi. Now Swart getting the offload away. They rested because of the Lions tour. Is it protocol? I'm not actually sure of the reasoning. It might also just be the case, though, of wanting to save them for... Oh, that's a big collision. Save them for the games at home. Although saying that, Sam Prendergast, I guess the argument is... Like, he is playing, isn't he? So, yeah, it might just be the stand-down period. Although I would have thought that stand-down period would have ended by now. And good Lord, are Leinster bad today? Maybe they should have done pre-season training. Says Maurice, a little bit of an ugly cut there on the forehead of Sinutla. It's not actually bleeding yet, though. That is one bonus, but another penalty going the way of the Stormers. I don't know if Leinster have won themselves a penalty throughout the last 60 minutes of this game, or at least it feels that way. Everything. The Stormers are getting massive collision there on the sideline. You can see why there was a bit of a cut on Sinutla with that collision. I said there that the TMO have missed it, as it did look a little bit high. So far, meters made, 79 for the Stormers. Did Leinster take full squad to South Africa, better team next week? I don't actually know who they've got in their squad. But you'd assume if they had no one available for this first match in terms of those Irish internationals, like I don't see them using those guys in the second game, if that makes sense. I feel like they're more than likely going to just say, look, we'll take whatever we have, and then we'll start stronger once we're back at home. A Substitute was a fantastic movie. Hamish, did you see it yet? Treat Williams? I have not seen Substitute. Right, the TMO is now checking this one. Yeah, see, that's a bit of an unlucky collision there. And I would say rugby incident penalty only for myself. Maybe they'll give it as a yellow, but I don't see it being that bad, if that makes sense. We're going to see it now. So the initial tackle was made by Harry Byrne, which does then drop Sinatla down a little bit. It does get him on the chin, though. So you're probably looking at a yellow, but I would be surprised if it's any more than that because of the mitigating circumstances. Leinster will have a similar team next week, and maybe they will be better. And if there's no large sweaty men in shorts, he's not interested, says Big Rig. We have there, Hamish doesn't watch movies. Yeah, so number 14 going to the bin, and Leinster now playing with 13 men out there on the field. I was waiting for the game to start. 7:30 p.m. Irish. Didn't realise there's 67 minutes gone. At least Leinster are losing. Says Patrick. And Leinster doing well to get the nil. And 2 high tackles in 1 go. Says CMC. So then the question has to be asked, do you penalise the first guy or the second guy in that regard? But now, kicking for the corner, Yuri Matea. Really great chance, like I said, for the Stormers to work their way towards a bonus point here. First tackler was a penalty, second tackler, red card. He's a New Zealander playing in a World Cup final. Says Studs Race. Max Deegan going over to give his teammate a bit of a slap on the shoulder. Tommy O'Brien beginning himself yellow card. Rolling ball again here for the Stormers. They are looking to rinse and repeat, and they do just that. Another try scored, and big celebrations from the Stormers back as Ruan Ackerman playing. He was a beast in the Premier League. He is off the bench, and he is actually on the field at the moment. But it is another try for Evan Rus. So they are using him like a hooker at the moment. Oh no, they've given it to Ruan Ackerman. My apologies. They were showing Evan Rus, but Ackerman actually scores just as he was mentioned. As Leinster going to get a big fat Homer Simpson donut. It looks a little bit like that. Is this a near full strength Leinster side? I would say no. Pretty far from full strength, but still a good enough side to come in as favourites up against the Stormers here. So they will be thoroughly disappointed with how this side has played. Can't believe I've missed most of the match. There's Patrick. That's what Leinster will be saying after this game's over, because they just haven't been here for this match. That kick has gone over. The score is 30-0. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about a Leinster side. I'm going to show the table. This is where they were sitting last year. Their points differential was plus 286. Whereas now, at the start of the URC season, they will sit with about a minus 30 as that differential. Rus is Rosen Afrikaans Amish and Stormers try machine. And now they're only 1 away from getting themselves the bonus point here. It was only 6-0 at half time, says Big Rig. Sam is on fire, says Briston. Now cross kick coming in. Chance here for Sinutla. Kicks it in behind in a foot race, and he would normally win one, but that ball curving towards the sideline. It does go out. Leinster have got themselves now the line out. 30 metres from the line. Is there a game you'll do after this one? There actually is. It's Glasgow Warriors taking on the Sharks. We are going to be covering that one on the channel as well. So, of course, anyone who is new, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more rugby just around the corner. Stormers surprising everyone. Says Lilia B. Yeah, they're sitting very nicely at the moment on the scoreboard. And if they continue to play like this, it'll be a real threat throughout the URC season, because you could still argue that they haven't been their best. And that's a good thing for the Stormers side. To still be winning 30-0 with a few errors along the way, like, it's absolutely massive for them. It's a long season, but been a while since we've seen Stormers playing like this. Says Studs Race. It's also, I can't think of a time when we've seen Leinster playing like this in recent years. This has been, even with their experimental sides, you know, with the sides lacking the internationals, this has been, I would have to say, the worst Leinster performance I have covered on the channel. And that's bold. You know, they've had games where they have given up big leads. They've had games where, as the experimental side, they have lost by a decent margin, but nothing like this. Okay, changing the height, so the tackler is just going to be given a yellow card here rather than it being upgraded. There's a little bit of confusion at the start there. It's just making sure it was still going to be ruled as the yellow, which I think the Leinster fellow would have been pretty happy about. Good job. I turned off at halftime, saw this coming, says Anthony. However, there, it's not a great game. Stormers dominating a poor team. Says Juan Pierre Bosch. This is close to the sideline, and that one has actually gone out. Means that there will be the line out this time, I believe, still for the Stormers. I agree, Hamish. Exceptionally poor Leinster. Sometimes they are wobbly at the start of the season, says Maurice. Anyone who picked this result is a legend. Well, we had someone who said Stormers by 20. And I thought, okay, bit of optimism. Nothing wrong with that. But they were actually too low with the prediction. And Leinster being smashed, says Ruth. And Stormers, says Patrick. Oh, that's going to be a loose ball. You know, I saw people getting stick on social media for predicting Stormers to win by 3. And a whole heap of people were saying they were going to screenshot what they said so they could laugh in their face after the Stormers lose. But Yuri Matea is going to score the bonus point try and Stormers lead 35-0. This has been a decimation of the defending champions. Can Leinster still win? No chance. 9 minutes remaining. They'll be lucky if they don't concede 40 points in this game. Have we even had a kickable penalty in the second half? I don't think so. I don't think Leinster have won a penalty in a very long time. Other than maybe that one when Henko Fenta went off his feet. That was the start of the second half. I can't think of one after that they've actually won. Leinster in a UA kit don't work. Says Juan Pierre. Kinnerbok, 17 team win tomorrow, or under 17 team win tomorrow. I mean, they'll have a pretty decent shot. There's some huge players in that one. Will there be a Legends match before the Bledisloe? Says Eric, not that I know of. A 50 is possible, yes, there's studs race. Yes, still 8 minutes remaining, and the thing is, they can take their foot off the gas and still sit very nicely in this game, the Stormers. I will not say this is a B-side, but Irish players have not had any game time since their last match after the previous URC. Says Johan. Now 8 minutes left. They put something in Leinster's water in half time. Says McGregor, is it because the Springboks are confident after New Zealand rubbing off on the Stormers? Says Cool Story. I don't know whether that would have anything to do with it. I think it's just that the Stormers have played with a lot more confidence in this game than their opposition. Didn't see the lineups which Leinster team are playing here. So the one absent of most of the Irish internationals. But like I said, that's still no excuse because you look through at the side and they came in as favourites for this matchup. And, you know, I felt like it was more 50-50 just because of the fact that the Stormers have not been beaten by Leinster at home. But this is still far from the result I think anyone was picking. Even the Stormers faithful were not saying Stormers to be leading 35-0 with 7 minutes remaining. Now that is going to be a scrum for Leinster. Little knock-on coming from the Stormers. Leinster must have completely sold out. Go on the Stormers, says David. And where's the hair, says JP. Because the Springboks beat the All Blacks and also we hit the light goal, the hair came off. So it is slowly growing back now. But we are sticking to the word that we did say. And it looks like I got a similar haircut at the moment to Ruan now. Out there on the field, Leinster F team by the looks of it, says Dazza. It was 9-0 not long ago, it feels. Says Cool Story Auntie. Not placing any bets on any games for a while, says Anthony. Yeah, the URC is unpredictable. And I do think that was one reason why someone came in so angry earlier on. I think I kind of worked out that they must have backed Leinster because Leinster were the favourites, but sometimes the favourites aren't as straightforward as they would seem. I just want Leicester to get on the board at this point. Well, they're currently 5 metres out from their own line, so their best bet is to just try and either win this penalty or kick it downfield. The Irish do like a bet, says Eric. And there's still a few Irish internationals in that Leinster lineup. There are. They've still got someone like a Max Deegan who did get sent to the bin pretty much as soon as he came out onto the field. They've got Jordan Lama, they've got O'Brien. Penalty this time goes the way of Leinster. Sam Prendergast in there too. And Leinster shameful rubbish. Go learn how to play rugby, says Dazza. Pretty impressive Stormers, says Jeremy. And it will be a good game tomorrow and the Kiwi tomorrow at Eden Park. It's not a bad Leinster team. I think they'll do better next week against the Bulls, says Ian. And Leinster are conceding too many penalties and they're getting bullied in the scrums. Yeah, I don't know what the the penalty count is, but if I had to just say how the matches felt, it's about 13-2. That's about where it feels like at the moment. I'm actually going to look on the URC website and see if that's anywhere close. Maybe there's been a couple more up against the Stormers, but I'd say that it can't be less than double digits up against Leinster in this game, who have now got themselves the possession. Now, another penalty goes the way of Leinster. If anything, they're just now starting to get a couple of those penalties back. The URC website is currently not working. That's not ideal. Which game are you covering next? We are doing the Glasgow Warriors versus the Sharks. That'll be the next game on the channel that is being covered. Now, sitting 50 metres out from the line, and that is another penalty going the way of Leinster. That is now 3 in a row that they have ended up giving away. Who's your man of the match, says Lilia BC. I was possibly looking at someone like a Stephen Nkura, but he wasn't even in the top 3 options. I do think that the front rowers do deserve a lot of credit. But I don't know, I feel like this has been a good team performance. You know how sometimes someone just stands out so much that there's no denying they were man of the match? But, like Evan Rus, he's been solid. Sinatla's had some good meters, so you could argue he would possibly get towards receiving it. Now rolling more for Leinster. Can they get rid of that 0? Currently sitting with 4 minutes remaining. Yellow card is coming. Says Liza there. Now back across to the right-hand side. Little knock-on from Lama, and that has summarised the whole day at the moment for this Leinster side. Every time they get a chance on attack, they have dropped that ball. Now we have got there 35-0, big donut for Leinster. And hey there, my sister's actually at the game. I was thinking of buying a ticket too, but I have to finish some varsity assignments. Scoring is shocking, says JP there. But it is now going to be the scrum for the Stormers just with the 4 minutes remaining. So they can just close out this game from here. Try and win that penalty at scrum time again. Evan Rus just getting slightly checked out there by one of the medics to make sure that he is all right for the final moments of this game. Hey, yeah, would you believe it? Says JP. Oh, sorry, that one was Ruth. And Stormers will win the URC. Says Johan, a preview of Ireland's Northern Tour or November Tour. I would say no, only because of the fact that half the guys who are playing in that November Tour aren't playing in this game. So it's a bit hard to judge based off that. Plus the fact that for that Northern Tour, they will be at home, whereas this game is away. So there aren't actually a huge amount of similarities when you really break it down, but it's been far from the best for Leinster, that is for sure, and a very strong Stormers performance up front, starting from the scrum. Oh, front row standing up, and that is another penalty going the way of the Stormers. It's great the URC is back. Says Patrick there. Now 2.5 minutes remaining. That one was won, I believe, by JJ Kutsia because of John McKee standing up. Leinster depth is usually a lot stronger than this. They're not a bad team. Like, looking through at their lineup, this was a team that a lot of people felt were going to really challenge the Stormers, if not beat them, in this game. And it just hasn't happened. They've had too many handling errors. They've been penalised very often throughout this game. Johan Hudson isn't back in the Bulls. Is it a lack of confidence on himself? Says Liza there. I think it might also come down to just knowing how strong the competition is, though, at the end of the day. Now, they've been told to use it once. Ireland was already on decline last year and in the Six Nations. Yeah, but I don't think they're going to go too badly throughout the November internationals. I think it's kind of one of those situations of write them off at your own apparel. Going off to the right-hand side, little flick pass attempted there. That was forward. Straight in front of the referee. No call there. Stormers still in possession with Sinatla. Sorry. Got it on the third try. Now JJ Coetzee getting driven backwards. It is unnerving to see Irish with no score, says Ruth. Underestimate Ireland at your own peril. Says Big Rig there. Now another drop ball from the Stormers. This time now Leinster for their first chance to score points with 1 minute remaining on the clock. They've had a knock-on of their own. They will go back for the scrum now. I've seen my fair share of green spankings in my time, says Big Rig. I picked Leinster, even though it was tight in the first half. Smashed up front, Stormers dismantled them. Says Studs Raisin. Yeah, it just shows what happens at that scrum when you don't have the Porter, Furlong and Sheehan combination. What's the silver lining here? I would say the fact that they don't have their whole team out there. It's a great learning experience again for these younger players who are in the lineup. But then there are still some veteran guys. Like Robbie Henshaw has touched the ball once in this whole game. And when you've got a player like him at 13 and he doesn't touch the possession, like you're never going to go that well. Looks like it's donut time, says Big Rig. We're following the Quins game after this. Bath looking so strong. Henry Arundel starts, says Eric. And also pretty sure she is. She works near the stadium too, says JP. And I should mention, we've only got 10 minutes till the next game starts up in this URC. That will be the Glasgow Warriors going head-to-head with the Sharks. I am going to be covering that one on the channel. Leinster have an opportunity for 3, but instead they will look to score 1 try. Backline movement, shoveling it on. The hands of O'Brien, who has returned from the bin after 10 minutes off of the park. We spell them donuts here for some reason. But I guess it makes sense because you do spell dough like D-O-U-G-H no matter where you are in the world. So I guess donuts kind of makes sense more than D-O. I guess it's just easier to spell with it shortened. But now short side, looking to get through was Finton Gunn. Now it's time for the Sharks to shine. Yeah, a lot of pressure on the Sharks side. They come in as huge underdogs, but will they find inspiration from what they have seen here? We have got there, silver lining as the fans get a lovely sunny holiday. So you see MC, a little bit of a step there in the middle from Hugh Cooney. Out of the team, I never like seeing donuts and rugby, says Big Rig. Now cross kick attempted, going out into the hands and drop ball again here from Leinster. That will summarise the game and a massive win here for the Stormers. 35-0 domination of the defending champs. And now the question mark is, where does Leinster go from here? And the answer is Loftus next week to take on a Bulls side that, of course, will be determined to repeat this result. Stormers, I'm impressed. The Stormers played the best game, says Gerhard, and living near Cape Town Stadium. Beautiful place. Green Point, says Roof, and Stormers going to win the URC, says Johan. And there as well. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. Massive win for the Stormers side. And they also get the bonus point too, which is an absolutely massive one there. But the next game, Glasgow versus the Sharks. It is just around the corner. We've got 10 minutes break, and then we are straight back in for that next match. We have got there. We keep hearing that Leinster has deep, unfettered pockets. I feel like I said that word wrong. What's stopping them? Doing a Chelsea bye. So here's Eric, and great start for the Stormers. Now that's my kind of silver lining, and thanks, Amish, says Ruth. And thanks. So here's Robert. Yeah, last season we never saw Leinster get less than 10 points. And even in that 10-point game, they did win up against the Sharks. I just asked ChatGPT. Doesn't even know when the last time was Leinster were kept scoreless. Says, Ian, it would have been a little while, I can tell you that right now. But they will have to look to bounce back because next week, like I said, they're up against the Bulls. Which is going to be a tough one just around the corner as well. But thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you all shortly for the Glasgow Warriors. And they do take on the Sharks.